All right. Thank you, Tom. Well, welcome, everyone. We're excited to have everybody with us tonight, especially everybody who is new. Jim, thanks for bringing half of your family and friends with you. We appreciate that. And yeah, it's going to be a great reading tonight. Super, super excited. So, first thing I want to do is I want to welcome everyone to the Ultimate Coach reading event. Tonight we're going to be reading chapter 38, and this is going to be Making Sense of Steve and the vignette for Wayne Hoffman. So the first thing that we want to do is take a moment and acknowledge our wonderful, incredible author, Amy Hardison and Alan D. Thompson. Without them, we would not be here. We also want to acknowledge Steve for the impact and the example of being that he is for all of us. Um, Again, without him to write the book about, we would not be here. We also want to thank Dell Dell and Kai Henderson and Jim Becker for being our guest readers tonight. Super excited to hear from you guys. And tonight's event is a co-created space for a deeper experience of the book and to further explore being in our community. So there's a couple of things that I would like everyone to share. If you would go ahead and put this in the chat. The first thing I want to ask you is, for those of you who have been here before, what has been your favorite thing about the book readings so far this season? So for those of you who haven't been there before, go ahead and look at my picture and you can see how to spell my name and just put my name in there. Okay. Got it. Good. Good. Okay. So yeah, any of you guys will put in there the people sharing, listening to the nuggets of gold from sharing. Andrea, woohoo, me. Okay. Community, Lori Becker, you're my second favorite. Getting to see everyone in one space, deep community with everyone. These are amazing. For those of you who have not been with us before, we are getting down to the end of the book. However, we will still have another book reading. We are going to be taking a couple of weeks break, but we will have things that are happening in between this reading and the next reading. And we will be starting the next season of the book reading soon. So keep an eye out in the group for any of the announcements. And yeah, you'll be kept updated on all of those. So Dave, we're tight. All right. So we want to take a moment to, I want to take a moment to thank everybody for being here today. Just your presence here, the energy that each one of you brings is incredible. These book readings for me personally each week are very uplifting. I get a lot out of the shares. And so I appreciate everyone who shares not only in this space, but also in the after parties. It just allows you to see things on a bigger scale. And I love it. I love people who are willing to state the space that they are in and where they are coming from and what they get out of the book. I think it is so beautiful. So what we're going to request is that when you read, when we're reading or when you're listening, read this about you, listen about you. And when it comes time to share, if you do feel like sharing, share about you. We would ask that if anybody would like to highlight somebody, or what's the word I'm looking for? We'd like to share about anybody else, that you do that either in the after party or that you reach out to them personally through Facebook, through Messenger. Yeah, so we would really like this to be all about you. So I am going to ask one other question, and there's kind of a reason that we're doing this. The other question that I would like you guys to answer in the chat is, if you had a moment with Steve Hardison, just you and he, what would you ask him? And I'm going to give you guys just a minute to to type those in there. His morning routine. So great, Jim. Woohoo! Snow angels in the shag carpet. Liz, love it. Okay. Well, what I would encourage each of you, if you haven't, where do you buy your shoes? If you didn't put a question in here now, throughout the book reading, go ahead and put a question in here. And I would ask that you just put Steve, colon, and then your question. What I am going to do is I am going to compile these. We're going to send these off to Steve. And then next week when he is reading, we're going to let him do whatever he would like with these. He doesn't know about this yet, so we'll see what happens. So, all right, perfect, love it. Again, thank you guys all for being here this morning. Right now, I'm going to transfer this off to my amazing teammate, Andrea, and she will take it from here.
Wow. Woohoo! Thanks, Carrie. That was awesome. Wow. If you can ask Steve a question, what would it be? Now I'm thinking of that. Thank you all for being here. Wow. There are 31 of us in the Zoom meeting. I can't see anyone in Facebook, but thank you so much for being here tonight. It's a very, very special gathering. And so I'm just so excited to be with you all. And I especially want to acknowledge our guest readers tonight, Kai and Dell Henderson. Yay! Oh, it's asking me what language do I want to speak? Arabic, no. And I would also love to acknowledge my birthday brother, Jim Becker. Yay, Jim Becker, thank you for saying yes. Woo! And so for everyone here, would you hold up your physical copy of the book if you have it on you? Hold it up for me so I can have a look. See, yay, 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 right on. Looks like most people have it. Good, great. So now, since this is such a wonderful chapter, as we start, oh, and is anyone here for the first time? I forgot to ask. Raise your electronic hand or your hand. Oh, I got Lori, Latrina, and anyone else? First time virgin book reading virgins, raise your hand. No, Tanya, you've been here before. Lisa, okay, so we got a few. Wow, that's cool. Okay. Well, I'm gonna close my eyes and pick. Yes. Latrina, would you do us the honor of reading the back cover for us? Are you cool with that? Not now. Yeah, you're cool? Okay, yay. And now I'm going to choose the Lori, would
Yes.
you do us the honor of reading the first 2 pages before you begin?
First 2 pages, sure.
Yeah, you're okay with that? Right on. Okay.
Yes.
Right on. And I'm gonna do it now because I think we've got
Andrea?
and yeah.
The first 2 pages from Steve Hardison. Is that the one, the 2 first?
Before you begin, yeah.
Yeah, okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
Hi, bro.
Lori, you've got the first 2 pages. Latrina, you've got the back cover. And I'm gonna pick one other special person. Angela, have you been to the book readings? Yes, you have.
Yes.
Got a hand up.
Okay, Lisa Neller. Lisa Neller, do you have the book? Do you have a physical copy of the book?
Yes,
You're
I
just
do.
on mute. You do, right on. Would you do us the honor of reading the vignette, Wayne Hoffman?
Sure. Sure.
That was a sure. Okay, we got everybody then. Okay, woohoo. Let me get this. Okay, so that's everyone then. So this is a very unique reading because we have so many awesome readers. So we'll start with Latrina reading the back cover. And then who did we pick? Lori to read Before You Begin. Lori reading Before You Begin. And then Kai will start us off. And then Jim will be the next reader. And Dell will be the next reader. And we'll end with Lisa reading the vignette. So everyone got that? I hope we all got it. Give us a thumbs up if that sounds good. Yeah, Lisa, I can't see you. But I'm assuming you got your thumb up. Okay, right on. So let's go. So as you listen to the readers reading the back of the book and the front 2 pages, listen for the questions. If something stands out, jumps out at you, feel free to focus on that question as you listen. So without further ado, please listen about you, read about you, and then share about you when the time comes. So we'll get started now with Latrina. Thank you, Latrina. Go ahead.
Okay. Dear potential reader, as you may have noticed, there are no testimonials on the back cover of this book, imploring you to read it. I vetoed that. The only testimonial I'm interested in is the one that you will have from reading and experiencing this book. Please do not read this book about me. Read this book about you. Read it about being. As you read, ask yourself, who would I need to be a more loving person? Who would I need to be a more effective parent? Who would I need to be to create a level of confidence that is remarkable? Who would I need to be at peace with who I am? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life that I can live? I promise you, if you read this book with the intention of expanding your state of being, you will do exactly that. Your experience will be remarkable. Who you are being is everything. Loving you, be blessed, be you, Steve Hardison.
I never wanted to write a book, and I haven't. I never wanted to have a book written about me, but here it is. This book is a gift from my wife, Amy, who wrote it, and my friend Alan D. Thompson, who conducted the research and interviews on which it is based. And it's not just a gift to me, but to you too. And now you're reading it. So with your permission, I'll give you some suggestions on how to read it. You see, this isn't an ordinary book. It's not simply a biography. It's not a self-help book. It's not a literary classic. It's definitely not a book about how to coach. In fact, it's not a book about doing anything. It's a book about being, and it's a book about you. To access this book, ask yourself these questions as you read. Who am I being as a partner, parent, or friend? Who am I being as a leader? Who am I being as a member of my community? Who would I need to be to have miracles show up in my daily life? Who would I need to be to create value in the work I do? Who would I need to be to generate a life of abundance? Who would I need to be to alter my relationship with fear? Who would I need to be at peace with my past? Who would I need to be to step powerfully into my future? Who would I need to be present as a way of being? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? Who would I need to be to know that my life makes a difference? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to improve my relationships with the most important people in my life? Who would I need to be to read The Ultimate Coach and have a personal breakthrough in being wonderful me? The best part about this book about you, is that it is endless. The story goes on and it is written by your being.
Chapter 38, Making Sense of Steve. The nuns in the abbey break out in a song that is so snappy, it's hard not to sing along. It is the second scene in the classic movie, The Sound of Music. Just after Maria twirls in an alpine meadow in her beloved Austrian Alps. The nuns in the abbey are trying to make sense of Maria, their atypical novitiate. They differ in their opinions about Maria, but agree that the task of understanding her is as challenging as catching a cloud, pinning a wave upon the sand, and holding a moonbeam in your hand. The same could be said for Steve. He defies easy explanation. He does not fit in classic categories. He simply isn't standard. Jason Jaggard reflects. Steve goes to a pedicure place and has exclamation marks painted on his toenails. Who does that? That is not normal. He does these weird things. That's probably the headline for Steve Hardison. Who does that? And that's what makes him so wonderful. His way of being is a threat to normality. He radically accepts normality and radically disrupts it at the same time. And that is a really fascinating experience. Steve warps normality the way gravity warps time and space. He produces perplexity. The consensus is that there is no one quite like Steve. Here's a sampling from a friend, family member, and client. John Goody says, I've never met a person like him in my life, and I've met a lot of people. Steve's sister, Teresa, says, Steve is not like a lot of people. There's not another Steve, not that I know of. Clayton Mask says, Steve is so different than anybody I've ever met. Everybody you meet is different, but he's more different than anybody. Indeed, most people don't turn their son's wisdom teeth into pendants for a necklace, which they wear. Most people don't keep their kidney stones and use them for the center stone of a ring. Most people don't frame an MRI of their brain and hang it in their house. Most people don't frame a close-up of an ant so they can tell people, this is my favorite ant. Most men don't wear patent leather fuchsia, Oxfords. But Steve is unique, pathologically unique. Is it any surprise he pronounces unique as U-ni-Q? He thrives on zigging when others zag. He delights in leaving people slightly befuddled. Scott Law says, people who observe Steve from afar don't really know how to take him. He's very, very interesting, even quirky. People don't get it. They think there has to be some sort of a motive behind it. He is so unusual, so peculiar that you just don't know. Patrick Provost says, he can be different than what people are used to. It can be polarizing. People either love him or fatally they don't. He can be very intense, especially when he has an intention or a commitment to do something. Actually, he can be intense even when there isn't an obvious intention. Maybe it's just a function of who he is. I'd say that most of the time people really like him, and when they don't, they really don't. It's pretty rare that I find someone who doesn't like Steve, but it has happened. John Vare says it this way. If you look at a bell curve, something like 80% of people are in the middle, and then 10% are on each side, the outliers. Steve doesn't fit on the bell curve. He doesn't even fit with the outliers. He is kind of broken. He doesn't have the thing inside of him that judges others. I don't think he has a thing that judges himself. He does what he does because he's broken, and I mean that in the most loving, kind, and honoring way I can say it. Because he is broken, he doesn't see the world the way the rest of us do. No doubt, Steve is difficult to decipher, but that doesn't mean we aren't going to try. How to make sense of Steve. In interviewing people for this book, Alan asked nearly every interviewee what they thought makes Steve Steve. Some proverbially threw their hands up in the air and surrendered to the mystery, but most people weighed in, offering a variety of possibilities. Steve's daughter, Lil, summed it up well when she said, "I think he was born naturally more sensitive, more in tune with people and the world around him. His early life experiences created more of that. He has worked to develop his strengths. And then there is his energy. He was given a gift. It's a gift that I don't think you can completely create, and yet it is a gift that can be cultivated." We will touch on these things and then plunge into speculation, but not wild speculation. We will consider theories that offer solid possibilities. They will provide some aha moments. They may even dispel some of the mystery. Will they completely explicate Steve? Not even close. But until we can take an MRI of Steve's personality or do an autopsy on his state of being, this may be the closest anyone will come to figuring out the enigma that is Steve. Nature. Without a doubt, Steve entered this world with genes from two powerhouses. My mom, says Steve's sister Teresa, was intuitive and perceptive. She could figure out people really fast. She was very intelligent. Our father was intelligent and very creative. That is in Steve's DNA. Steve has always thought at a higher, more creative plane. Steve's sister Jamie adds this insight. Steve would have known our dad less than anybody, and Steve is the most like him as far as charm, personality, and making friends. My dad was tall and very good looking. There are a lot of similarities. Steve is not like him in the bad aspects. In my dad's later years, he did a lot of things that nobody would be proud of. But Steve was never like that. Where my dad chose some self-destructive paths, Steve chose to make something of his life. Particularly interesting is Jamie's remark that of all the family members, Steve knew their father the least. Steve only has a few memories of him. His opportunities for direct modeling were limited. This suggests that when Steve exhibits his father's traits and behaviors, genetics is in play. In 1995, Steve and Amy made a trip to Adairville, Kentucky, where Roy Hardison grew up over 60 years before. It was like stepping into Mayberry. It had an old-fashioned town center built around a square park with mature, shady trees. There was a colonial-style town hall in the town center, complete with a clock tower. There was a barber shop with a red, white, and blue pole, and a wooden bench that invited folks to sit a spell and gab. 3 elderly men sat on the bench. As Steve approached them to ask directions, one man raised his voice and said, "You must be Roy Hardison's son." It stopped Steve in his tracks. "How did you know?" "You walk just like him." The power of genetics is amazing and slightly creepy. In Steve's case, it accounts for his charm, his fastidiousness, his propensity for practical jokes, his ability to talk the birds out of the trees, and probably several other unrecognized connections to a father who was absent, yet present, if only at a molecular level. Nurture. Maureen Hardison had a bit of the rebel in her. She abandoned her Mormon upbringing for a more unbridled lifestyle, which she kept even after returning to conservative Clearfield after her divorce. For Pioneer Day, the holiday celebrating the pioneers' arrival in Utah, she shaved Steve's and Phil's hair into mohawks. It got them kicked out of grade school. It was just too edgy for 1962. Decades later, Amy remembers Maureen dropping one-liners here and there, encouraging her to question authority. It was a lost cause. Amy colors inside the lines. Maureen was more successful with Steve. He questions authority, organizations, rules, paradigms, and all status quo thinking. Maureen would be proud. This was not the only attitude Maureen bequeathed to Steve. Maureen had moxie. She was a natural-born CEO. She radiated, "Don't mess with me or even think about it." No doubt, there is a genetic component to the transmission of these assertive traits, but there is also plenty of modeling. In addition, Maureen gave her children a lot of leeway to experience life, to fail, and to learn through natural consequences. Maybe this was by choice, maybe by necessity. In a pre-cell phone era, Maureen simply couldn't be too hands-on as a mom when she was rarely at home. In the 1960s, single-parent homes were not as common as they are today. At times, curious friends asked Steve, "What's it like growing up without a dad?" Steve's answer was always, "It's great. I have so much freedom." It was a hybrid answer, part bravado and part truth. Steve would have loved a Leave It to Beaver style home, but it's doubtful he would have become who he is today without the untethered freedom he experienced. Teresa notes, "In the early years, Stephen wasn't constrained. My mother wasn't teaching him a lot of things. My dad wasn't there. As siblings, we were all doing our own thing. No one was putting restraints on Steve's creativity. No one was reining in his ideas. No one was demanding he adhere to social conventions. He was a free spirit with plenty of space." Steve's son Clint observes, "I have a unique dad. He's unique in a lot of ways. I've spent a lot of my life pondering, who is this guy? Why is he like this? I think he came that way. I think that he's wired differently. I think the nature of his childhood added to it. He had to learn to survive, and he had to be creative in ways other kids didn't have to. That cultivated skills in him that other people don't have to cultivate." Amy certainly never had to get creative to make sure she ate. Neither did Steve's kids. When Steve was young, he bounded down the stairs in the morning, hoping there would be 35 cents on the table for lunch money. It was hit and miss, but hunger is a great motivator. It kicked Steve's creativity into high gear. He came up with a lot of ways to get food, some of which were even legal. So many of the exceptional talents and abilities that Steve has today can be traced back to his childhood experiences. But there was also a dark side. There was trauma. There was a sense of abandonment. There was literally living on the wrong side of the tracks and being the kid that parents didn't want their children hanging out with. There was not fitting into the establishment, be it church, school, or community. There was having way too much, I just added way. There was having too much energy, too many words, and too much unbounded zest, aka a penchant for trouble. Steve internalized all these things and adapted accordingly. Some of his adaptations were empowering. Some haunted him for years. Louise Phipps Senft observes, "I think Steve was deeply wounded as a child and has probably spent his whole life trying to overcome his woundedness. It is a lifetime journey. He will possibly never be fully healed until he moves over the veil into pure spirit. But he's wired as a fighter. His big fight kept him alive." Teresa's thoughts aligned with Louise's. She says, Stephen is extraordinary. What makes him extraordinary? I don't know. I think that some things he came to Earth with, some things he developed as he worked and make the best out of what was given to him. But I think at his core, there is that little boy that felt a sense of trauma. 10,000 hours. In his book Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell popularized his 10,000 hour rule, the amount of time it takes to achieve mastery. 10,000 hours roughly equates to 10 years of focused work. Gladwell points to Mozart, the Beatles, and Bill Gates as examples. He applies the 10,000 hour rule to things as varied as computer programming, hockey, and chess. What does it have to do with Steve? Steve was given the raw materials, the genes, the modeling, the freedom, and the environment to become who he is today. But those things were the possibility of Steve. Between possibility and fruition, Steve buffed and polished, developed and refined his gifts and talents for years. From the time he was 8 and maybe younger, he was having conversations with strangers. He was engaging them, delighting them, and enrolling them to help him. As a missionary, and when he traveled in his Rodel days, Steve was always talking to people, asking pointed questions and pushing the limits of conversational propriety to learn about human nature. Steve has spent 10,000 hours healing his life. In his almost 30-year career as a coach, he has spent well over 10,000 hours coaching. Clearly, Steve's coaching ability didn't just happen. Steve is rare and unique, says Shanti Zimmerman. His capacity is so broad that sometimes people forget that there's a human being behind that. They don't see the sheer magnitude of work that he has done within himself to be that person. Personality. Steve, you have to see this movie. The main guy reminds me so much of you. Steve hears this a lot. The star is always bold, brash, and visionary. He goes against the grain. He makes a difference. Steve always sees the movies. Usually, he sees himself. Always, he sees how others see him. Steve doppelgangers also show up in books. When Amy was reading Walter Isaacson's Steve Jobs, she kept saying to Steve, "You are so much like Steve Jobs." She highlighted passage after passage of similarities. Midway in the book, their personalities diverged and Amy adjusted her assessment. Saloni Singh saw similarities between Steve and the protagonist in Ayn Rand's Fountainhead, Howard Roark, specifically their sheer amount of self-confidence, trust in oneself, and closeness to divinity. Hannah Callahan was reminded of Steve as she read Czech fairy tales to her daughter, Hani. A hero is born from nothing, accomplishes the unimaginable, while never for a moment thinking it was impossible, and then just goes about his life. When reading War at the End of the World, Douglas MacArthur and the Forgotten Fight for New Guinea, 1942 to 1945, by James P. Duffy, Amy found another match. Douglas MacArthur was the Supreme Commander of the Southwest Pacific area. Admiral Ernest King was the Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. fleet and the Chief of Naval Operations, the only officer to hold this combined command. More than anyone else, these two powerful men shaped the Allied strategy in the Pacific theater. And they were at cross purposes on almost every important issue. According to Kyle Beckman, General MacArthur and Admiral King both had dominant personalities. Each was confident to the point of arrogance, tenacious to the point of obstinacy, and possessed practical intelligence bordering on genius. Sounds familiar. The movie heroes, Steve Jobs, the Admiral, the General, all point to the fact that there are certain personality types that movers and shakers share. It is something that has been studied extensively under different names. such as dominant personality. Katrina Faust writes, people who are high in D, dominant personality, are extroverted and outgoing and task-oriented. They tend to be direct, decisive, and driven and demanding. They typically have high confidence, are self-motivated, and are comfortable taking risks. They like to focus on the big picture, not details. It sounds like a description of Steve. Faust reveals the shadow side of high Ds. When the dominant trait is overdeveloped, or when people in high D become stressed, they can become impatient, blunt, to the point of being insensitive. That shoe fits too. Another study is Gallup's research on the qualities of highly successful entrepreneurs. They studied more than 1,000 entrepreneurs and came up with a short list of 10 common qualities. These are business focus, confidence, creative thinker, delegator, determination, independent, knowledge seeker, promoter, relationship builder, risk taker. Steve is strong in all these areas. Particularly interesting, Gallup cited research showing that these entrepreneurial characteristics are between 37% and 48% genetic. Once again, the Steve Hardison we know goes back to Maureen and Roy. Steve inherited the mix of characteristics that generated a dynamic, confident, creative leader with pit bull tenacity.
The dichotomy. Steve is crazy about black and white. Just look at his toenails. He frequently sports black polish with white exclamation marks, a replica of his business card, or if the fancy strikes him. He goes with black and white checks. 60% of his clothing is black or white or both. His cars are black or white. Birthday and Christmas gifts are often black and white. Black and white striped shirts, black and white Oxfords, and customized Vans. Black and white, exclamation marks. Just as form follows function, Steve partialities reflect his personality. He is awash in dichotomy. It is part of the enigma. Deanna Chesley says, Steve is one of the most reverent and irreverent people I know. Scott Law notes that Steve is both humble and confident at the same time. Many clients consider Steve's amenality enlightening, making the Porsches and the California teeth and the chiseled body so unexpected. It is a paradox in so many ways, and I love it. Mandy Leto. Amy says, if you walk into a furniture store, a jewelry store, or onto a car lot and ask Steve to identify his favorite, he immediately points to the most expensive item. He has an eye for quality, and then he does things like enlarge a senior picture from high school and use a toilet seat for its frame. He thinks it's hilarious. That went in the garage. Steve, 66 years old, year 2021. The dichotomies and the ubiquitous, Steve loves hard rock and pan flute music. He is an extreme extrovert and basks in his alone time. He is both edgy and conservative. He is extremely picky when it comes to the taste of meat, and he delights in odd culinary combinations, like a sandwich of peanut butter, jelly, cheese, pickles, and ham. He is a veritable noise machine, loud, talkative, and boisterous, and he is disrupted by loud noises. He is absolutely enlightened and transformed. He has meltdowns that are anything but enlightened. His dichotomy is evident in his coaching. He kisses the feet of his clients and then gets in their face with sound fury. Teresa Campbell relates. At one point, I was sitting on the couch and he was on his knees in front of me. I remember feeling almost cared for, like I was a baby again. And then there was a crescendo until he was screaming at me, "Are you going to get this message, lady?" I'll never forget it. He was yelling, "You are as talented as anyone who has ever sat in this office. You could be running the Ford Motor Company if you wanted to." It was intense, but it was really nice. I felt like he gave me $1 million coaching session. Alfie True says, the guy is a complete enigma. 1 minute, I feel like I'm massively challenged, as though he is poking a hot dagger into my heart and twisting it around. The next minute, I feel like I'm being hugged by a Care Bear and receiving all of his love. That's the best I can describe it. A hot poker in the heart, compassionate Care Bear. I love that those two things go hand in hand. It is perplexing. He is perplexing. As Carla Rotting notes, he is a rascal. He's a motorcycle guy. He's a Mormon. He's all those incredible conflicting polarities, and then some. A highly sensitive person. Perhaps you have noticed when asked what makes Steve the people who know him best, his siblings, Amy, his children, all mention he came like that. But what is that? Could that hold the secret of Steve? 15 to 20% of people are born with a neurological system that is pre-wired to be highly sensitive. They're considered highly sensitive persons, HSP, a term coined by Elaine Aron, a clinical research psychologist, a pioneer in the field of high sensitivity. High sensitivity exists on a continuum. Some HSPs consider themselves extremely sensitive, others quite a bit sensitive, and still others just moderately so. Steve never does things part way. He definitely falls into the extreme sensitive category. Many, but not all HSPs are quite quiet and reserved. 30% are extroverts. An extremely sensitive extrovert, let me give that to you again. Extroverted HSP, like Steve, would fall into a narrow category of people who might be born like that. There are 4 main traits of HSPs, arranged in an order to make the economy DOES, D-O-E-S. Number 1, depth of processing. The fundamental characteristic of HSPs is their depth of processing sensory information. HSPs notice levels of stimulation that go unobserved by others. This is true whether you are talking about subtle sounds, sights, or physical sensations like pain. We, HSPs, sort things into finger distinctions, like those machines that grade fruit by size. Size, we sort into 10 sizes, while others sort into 2 or 3. Number 2, overstimulation. People perform best when their nervous systems are moderately alert and aroused. Too little arousal and life is bland and boring. Too much arousal in life is like Times Square, everlasting. The optimal level of arousal is somewhere in the middle. This is true for everyone, both HSPs and non-HSPs. The difference is the tipping point. Aaron notes, what is moderately arousing for most people is highly arousing for HSPs. What is highly arousing for most people causes HSP to become very frazzled indeed. HSPs are constantly processing every detail all the time, whether they are aware of it or not. Thus, HSPs' nervous systems are frequently overstimulated, overtaxed, and overwhelmed. Consequently, HSPs need plenty of downtime. They may marvel, and even those who keep going and going and going, like the Energizer Bunny. Number 3, emotional reactivity, empathy. The E in does double duty. It stands for emotional reactivity, which means HSPs have stronger reactions to both positive and negative experiences and to external and internal stimuli. External stimuli include pain, light, and noise. While most tune out sirens, glaring lights, strange odors, clutter, and chaos, HSPs are distributed by them or disturbed by them. My apologies. They may even find them physically painful. Internal stimuli include thoughts, emotions, and realizations. The E also stands for empathy. HSPs are more aware of others' emotions and are intensely affected by them. This can be traced to a phenomenon discovered by scientists in the early 1990s called mirror neurons. When humans watch someone doing something, a clump of neurons fires in the same way. As the neurons fire in the person who is actually doing that thing, for example, whether you are kicking a soccer ball or watching someone kick a soccer ball, the same neurons fire. These mirror neurons help us perceive others' feelings and intentions and are partly responsible for the universal human capacity of empathy. They are especially active in HSPs who excel in knowing how someone else feels. Number 4, sensitive to subtleties. HSPs will notice small sounds, tiny distractions, smells, or tastes that others aren't even aware of. This awareness is both physical and emotional. Aaron explains, most people walk into a room and perhaps notice the furniture, the people, and that's about it. HSPs are instantly aware of whether they wish to be or not, of the mood, the friendships, the amenities, the freshness, the staleness of the air, and the personality of the one who arranged the flowers. Humans are not only ones who are highly sensitive. Mice, cats, dogs, horses, and monkeys, all higher animals, exhibit these traits. There may be an evolutionary reason for highly sensitive animals may serve as an early warning system, alerting the less sensitive animals of imminent danger, whether that the danger be a predator or a natural disaster. Duly warned, the less sensitive animals can escape to safety. Such watchmen on this savanna in the forest are the assets in their animal communities. But you can't have a whole gaggle of watchmen. Some animals need to change into their unknown, blissful, unaware of every threat. Thus, accordingly to Aaron, those with sensitive survival strategy will always be in a minority. Highly sensitive people have strengths beyond boosting the odds of survival. They are often very intelligent, creative, exceptionally intuitive, compassionate, and spiritual. Their oversensitivities enrich and amplify their talents, so much so that they veer into the domain of giftedness on the flip side, because they take in so much sensory information, more easily overwhelmed and stressed out than non-HSPs. When the onslaught of sights, sounds, emotions become too much, they may get upset, frazzled, and angry. This is only a brief overview of sensory processing sensitivity, the trait's scientific terms. For those interested, Elaine Aron, the highly sensitive person, is the Bible in the field. For us, this survey is enough. We can move on to looking at the nature of highly sensitive persons in terms of Steve's life and personality. Inherence. Having a highly sensitive nervous system is an inherited trait, but not entirely. Some people become highly sensitive because of an abuse, trauma, or extreme stress in their childhood. Steve, it appears, has a double source of high sensitivity. No doubt Maureen was an HSP when describing their mother. Each of her children remarked on Maureen's extraordinary ability to read people. And there was the spraying of the fields, the purses from China, the smell of a new carpet, paint, the perfume that made Maureen's life nearly unbearable at times. Of course, most people notice and even dislike the smell of a newly painted room or a newly carpeted house. But for Maureen, it was painful. When Steve and Amy remodeled, it was well over a year before Maureen could step inside their house. In her last decade, Maureen couldn't stay in hotels because of the fumes emitted by the carpet. It didn't even have to be a new carpet. She bought a small travel trailer so she could take a clean room on the road. Elaine Aron notes that HSPs are more sensitive to all things airborne. They suffer more hay fever and skin rashes. That explains the spraying of the fields. Not your average Joe. Many HSPs feel like they don't fit in. They fear they are broken, out of step with the rest of humanity. For instance, Mel Collins writes, "For the first 3 decades of my life, I was convinced that there was something wrong with me. I seemed to feel things more deeply than those around me and processed my emotions for longer. As a child, I heard consistent messages of stop being so sensitive, but I didn't know how to stop something that was naturally a part of me." Steve has never seen his unique abilities as a liability. He loves who he is. His gifts are an invaluable asset. His clients would agree. Still, that doesn't negate the fact that Steve, a super HSP, is truly different as in form. Let me give that to you again. As in from a different planet. Dustin Vanderkamp says, Steve is just someone like no one has ever seen on the planet. Steve is definitely different. It's not our imagination. For years, Amy said that Steve's senses are acute and super sensitive. Steve can smell something in the kitchen that is off 3 days before. Amy. Steve sees details from 100 feet that Amy is oblivious to at 3 feet. Steve really goes outside without sunglasses. Even for a few minutes, the sun is brutal on his eyes. Even at night, Steve likes minimal indoor lighting. Normal lighting is too glaring, but in actuality, but in actuality, it is probably not Steve's senses at all. Elaine Aron explains that HSP's hearing, vision, or other senses are not superior. Rather, the difference is in the brain. An HSP's brain processes information differently, more carefully. This difference is observable. J.Z. Owitz and her colleagues studied the brain activation of HSPs and non-HSPs and found HSPs use more of their part of the brain that is associated with the deeper processing of information. HSPs also have more activity in the right side of their brain. They have more norepinephrine, which is the brain's version of adrenaline, and more cortisol, which is the hormone present in higher concentrations when a person is in a constant state of arousal or wariness. The Russian physiologist Ivan Pavlov believed that the most basic inherent difference among people is how soon they reach the point where their system is overwhelmed by stimuli. He concludes that those who are quick to shut down, i.e., HSPs, have a fundamentally different type of nervous system. The essential point from the studies of Pavlov, J. Leowitz, and others in that HSPs don't just behave differently. Their brains actually work differently than the brains of non-HSPs. Jerome Kagan of Harvard concludes that HSPs are a very special breed. They are genetically quite different, although still utterly human, just as bloodhounds and border collies are quite different, although both are still definitely dogs. Little wonder HSPs feel out of step with their world and that non-HSPs are left scratching their heads when they are with HSPs or with an HSP. No surprise that most of us don't quite know how to explain Steve. JP, John Patrick Morgan says, there are very few people I meet that I can't understand where they're coming from or what their reality is, especially after spending some time with them. Usually I can anticipate what they will say, but Steve's responses continuously come out of left field. I definitely can't anticipate them. It's like he blindsides me every time in a good way. My interest in working with Steve is to be able to see the world that he sees. Awareness and intuition. One of the central traits of HSPs is that they pick up on the subtleties around them, but it cites sounds or emotions. They are aware of the things that a non-HSP would never see. When Steve and Amy pick up a rental car or accept delivery of a piece of furniture or walk through with a contractor, it is Steve's job to inspect. He sees everything from the smallest scratch to the tiniest variance in alignment. It is a remarkable ability, and it can be frustrating. It sets a high bar for contractors. Steve can be seen as picky. When younger, the relentless awareness of a flawed world was a constant, low-grade irritation, but Steve learned to let go of that. To the non-HSPs, particularly the 42% of people who consider themselves not at all sensitive, and HSPs ability to see, hear, and feel things that are below their radar is mind-boggling. It is, as Aaron notes, like taking to Laplanders are about coconuts. Aaron gives an example of the different ways an HSP and non-HSP experience life. Imagine Rob and Rebecca coming to school one morning. Rebecca sees the same classroom, teacher, and children as were there yesterday. She runs off to play. Rob notices that the teacher is in a bad mood. One of the children is looking angry, and some bags are in the corner that were not there before. Steve would miss the emotional temperature or the bags in the corner. Such things like the E on the eye chart for him, for non-HSPs, they are all the smallest line of letters. Steve clearly responds to subtle visual and audio clues from his clients and derives remarkably accurate conclusions about them. But that isn't the whole story. HSP systems are very porous, says Harry McBride. That is, external stimuli seem to be more directly absorbed into their bodies. It has been said that HSPs hardly have skin at all to protect them from the outside stimuli. A less porous system, such as the skin of a non-HSPs, diffuse outside stimuli and thereby keeps the nervous system from taking into too much and overloading. It is interesting that John Goody says of Steve, he thinks beyond the body. He thinks beyond the real. Steve himself, when asked, how is he able to see into a person's soul, says, it is seeing, feeling, hearing. It is also something else. I can't put words. I am a huge receptor. That is unintelligible to those of us whose skin does the job. This hyper-awareness is why HSPs are highly intuitive. And HSPs processes sensory information both consciously and subconsciously, whether they want to or not. It is the subconscious processing that leads HSPs to say they just know things without knowing how they know them. In fact, Aaron defines institution as as picking up and working through information in a semi-conscious or unconscious way. Aaron elaborates, you just know how things got to be the way they are or how they are going to turn out. This is that sixth sense people talk about. It can be wrong, of course, just as your eyes and ears can be wrong. But your intuition is right often enough that HSPs tend to be visionaries. Holly Prophet Vanderkap relates her experience of Steve's awareness and intuition. We were filming a podcast at our home, and Steve came over. I introduced him to 3 other people that were at our house, Christy, Lauren, and Paul. Paul was in the kitchen, about 20 feet away. Lauren was on the other side of the family room. She was not facing Paul. They were not even in the same room. Steve said, oh, are you guys married? These are just random people he has never met before. They say no. But apparently, they had just kissed the night before. How does Steve know stuff like that? I don't know. He's magical. He had them pegged right away. They are married now. Creativity. Pearl S. Buck once said, the truly creative mind in any field is no more than this, a human creature born abnormally. inhumanly sensitive. To him, a touch is a blow, a sound is a noise, a misfortune is a tragedy, a joy is ecstasy, a friend is a lover is a God, and failure is death. And to this cruelly delicate organism, so that without the creating of music or poetry or books or buildings or something of meaning, his very breath is cut off from him. He must create, must pour out creation by some strange, unknown, inward urgency. He is not really alive unless he is creating. It sounds like Buck is speaking from experience. It also sounds like she is speaking of Steve. Indeed, for Steve, a touch is a blow and a cold is a dire illness. But more on that later. Studies have shown that HSPs are very creative. Perhaps it is because they are often more right brain and less linear in their thinking. Perhaps it is because many HSPs tend to link and combine different ideas in new and creative ways. Creativity is Steve's lifeblood. It is the heart of his coaching and the essence of every conversation. With every question, with every answer, with every conversation, I am creating, says Steve. It's all I do all day long. It gives me energy. I could talk about creation for 40 days.
Love and tenderness. HSPs, says Aaron, fall in love harder than others. Brian Samuels notes, Steve honors his wife to a degree that approaches worship. Enough said. HSPs also cry more easily. They are moved to tears by movies, music, and art. Steve can be seen wiping away a tear or two while experiencing musical performances from Freddie Mercury to Lamb of God. He is also profoundly moved by the underdogs, the courage of everyday heroes, especially his clients, the miracle of a strawberry growing out of dirt, and grocery stores' grand openings. Steve is sensitive, tender, and susceptible to all. Many HSP traits are traditionally associated with females. That is why Amy calls Steve my metrosexual. In fact, Amy and Steve experience several role reversals. Steve talks more about feelings, loves to shop more, is more disturbed by violence in a movie, loves clothes more, and loves shoes a whole lot more. Amy's happy with 2 pairs of flip-flops. Think about thinking. Steve's son, Clint, recalls many summer evenings, lying on the grass with Steve, looking up at the stars. Sometimes they talk about eternity. Sometimes it got even deeper. Clint says, I remember him explaining to me how the self doesn't exist. I thought, what are you talking about? Dude, I'm 9. HSPs love to think about life and death and how complicated everything is. And they spend more time doing it than non-HSPs. They love to think about thinking. Steve loves to ponder the mysteries of life, space, and existence. And thinking about thinking is an apt description of the forum, Byron Katie, the Enneagram, and USM. It also sounds a lot like the 12-year-old Steve in the shed behind his grandpa's house, the 40-something Steve gazing at the stars with his son, and the current Steve as he meditates in the Zen garden. Zen gardens are made to order for HSPs. Meditation is how they thrive. Aaron says, HSPs need plenty of downtime just for unwinding and thinking over the day. Yet another form of rest, perhaps the most essential, is transcendence, rising above it all, usually in a form of meditation, contemplation, or prayer. At least some of your transcendent time should be aimed at talking you out of all ordinary thinking into pure consciousness, pure being, pure unity, or oneness with God. Even if your transcendence falls short of this, when you return, you will have a bigger, fresher perspective on your life. Keeping it simple. Keep my toys simple and my life uncomplicated. Aaron gives this advice to parents of highly sensitive children, speaking from the child's perspective. It's not something HSP outgrows. Steve's toys are more expensive and go a whole lot faster than a child's toys, but they are still simple. A nice, really nice car is the only toy Steve really wants. And he definitely wants his life uncomplicated. Janera Nierenberg, an HSP, an author of Divergent Mind, Thriving in a World That Wasn't Designed for You, says, I find it unpleasant to have a lot going on at once. Steve has a busy mind. If his outside world moves at the same velocity, it is too much. Steve gets frazzled. At such moments, Amy consciously slows her speaking. In general, she works to keep the chaos at bay. Steve practices and advocates slowing down and just being present. Harry McBride, HSP, says, doesn't take much to make me happy. I am capable of being happy all day long just because I saw a parakeet flying in the wind. It's not a hallelujah. My life is complete, kind of happiness, but more of a childish excitement. And who wouldn't want to feel that all so easily? Jason Jaggard experienced Steve's parakeet happiness. During one session, Steve spent a significant amount of time walking Jason through his Zen garden, pointing out the flowers, plants, and trees. Jason says he was like, look at that. Look at this. Look, look. It was almost like a 5-year-old showing a parent. He was modeling wonder and awe and how beautiful the world is. I'll be honest, I was having a lot of judgment come up. This 65-year-old man is delighting in the flowers. I'm thinking, what the hell? Eventually, Jason saw the beauty and wonder of it. He reflects. That's what Steve does. He creates a space that is so big that you judge it at first, but when you step into it, you expand and it makes sense. Clint offers this insight. One thing that strikes me about my dad is that he'll have an experience that I would have brushed off. For instance, let's say I'm on my way from A to B, and this little thing happens. I wouldn't even tell anybody about it. And my dad is on his way from A to B. The same thing happens, and he sees divinity in it. He picks up his phone and calls people. He says, you're not going to believe what happened to me. No one else would have that, or no one else would have made that phone call because no one else would have viewed it that way. I've gotten that call from him so many times. Simple, uncomplicated joy. Extracurricular traits. The following traits don't have a direct hearing on coaching, but they still capture Steve in ways his clients may or may not have experienced. Low threshold for pain. Amy, I cut myself. I need help. Amy used to run to Steve. Now she walks. She knows he'll probably have a hard time seeing the wound. When she gets to Steve, they both laugh. Looks like you need stitches, say Amy. I'm just not sure where. HSPs are typically very sensitive to all forms of pain. For Steve, a muscle cramp feels like a vice. A sore throat feels like knives slicing his throat. And a cold, well, get out the last will and testament. Amy used to think Steve was a kind of a baby. Now she understands they have different baselines for pain. Still, She can't help teasing Steve just a little where she brings his meals in bed when he has a cold. Nostalgia. Aaron writes, the deeper processing for subtle details cause you to consider the past or future more. Steve is highly nostalgic. Every visit to Utah includes driving by his childhood home, his grade school, junior high, and high school, with ample narration. He still remembers the junior high locker combination. He tears up when he hears music he loved as a teenager. Anything that happened pre-1976 has elite status in Steve's mind and memory. It is only with the greatest difficulty that Amy has kept a conversation pit out of their home. They do have shag carpeting. Physical sensation. Harry McBride says, I love the feeling of a soft blanket against my skin. The touch of a loved one has a similar effect. When I walk out the door and the smell of spring hits me, I am instantly in a good mood for the rest of the day. Physical sensations are intense for HSP. Steve loves to be touched. It is probably the reason he loves pedicures. He purrs like a kitten when Amy rubs his arm nightly. He wiggles his arm if she gets distracted and stops. He has toyed with hiring somebody to rub his arm all night long so he can sleep deeply. Amy nixed that idea. Steve loves Arizona in March when outdoors smell like orange blossoms. He loves cologne and wears it lavishly. Strong odors like cooked broccoli assault his senses and triggers olfactory distress. Sensitive to criticism. HSPs tend to react and overreact strongly to criticism. They often feel like they're being attacked personally. In his interview, Ward Andrews says, Steve has very few weaknesses, but I think one is that if he is challenged or thinks someone isn't listening to him, he can take it as a personal affront. He feels like he has to justify himself when he certainly doesn't have to do. I think there's a growth edge there for him a little bit. Hate to forget. HSPs may try to avoid making mistakes or forgetting things. It irritates Steve to no end when he has to get out of his car, go back in the house, and get his car keys or whatever else he may have forgotten. Except in dire circumstances, once Steve drives away from his house, he does not return if he forgot something. One-liners. Finally, some one-liners, all of which applies to Steve. HSPs are often rattled by unexpected changes. It can take quite a while for them to adapt to a new situation. HSPs tend to not do well in multitasking and find it unpleasant to have a lot going on at once. Most people's feet are tired at the end of the day at the mall. HSPs' nervous systems are exhausted. HSPs tend to startle easily stressed by loud noises, strong odors, and bright lights. HSPs are especially good at tasks requiring vigilance, accuracy, speed, and the detection of minor differences. HSPs hate to be rushed and may get rattled when they have to do a lot in a short amount of time. The exceptions. Most of the HSP traits fit Steve like an exquisitely tailored suit, but there are certain characteristics that don't fit Steve at all. For instance, HSP may take more time to fully process information. They may need a few days before they can sort out how they feel or think about something. Steve processes information rapidly and decides quickly. Needlessly drawn out decision-making drives him nuts. HSPs tend to process much more cautiously than non-HSPs. Steve loves being spontaneous. He does not proceed with caution. HSPs may find public speaking more challenging. Their key to success is to prepare, prepare, prepare. Not so for Steve, who's won the National Extemporaneous Speaking Competition in the 1980s. HSPs are more than cooperative and competitive. Laughable, Steve thrives on competition. These exceptions don't kick Steve out of the HSP club. Rather, they reveal that even within a limited category of people who are different, Steve is still different. Energy and intensity. Having looked at nature, nurture, intentional development, personality, and being an HSP, there is still one more component to consider in our attempt to understand Steve, his energy and intensity. Steve Chandler, who knows Steve as well as anyone outside of his immediate family, attributes Steve's uniqueness to three things: his ability to see into another person and his belief systems after talking to them a very short time. 2, his power of creation. 3, his energy. Regarding the last one, Chandler says, his energy is simply higher than anyone's I have ever met. Sometimes overwhelming to people, sometimes just too much, even though it's benign, even though it's loving. To get a sense of Steve's energy, picture Niagara Falls, colossal, commanding, dynamic. Steve's sister Teresa says, Steve is not for a faint-hearted person because his energy will burn other people out. It's not a hyperbole. He burns out companions on his mission. When in the midst of a project like sharing TBOL, LIT, NFL with the world, he can put in 20-hour days while his family lags in exhaustion. When he sees possibility, he's like a horse with blinders, running at top speed and barely aware of the horses dropping out of the race. On the upside, his energy produces unbelievable results. Riding shotgun to his energy is Steve's intensity. Steve is intense as a way of being, but at the same time, his intensity is not always activated. Think of a sports car that goes from 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds. Steve's intensity is always there in potential, ready to respond when he hits the gas. Amy explains, he may be having a total normal conversation on the phone, and the next thing I know, he is yelling, gesticulating. When a phone call is over, he is totally calm and says, I just need to wake somebody up. The passion erupts because he cares so much. Like his extreme energy, his intensity can be difficult. Adam Amin Mahboubi says, I would say one of the most challenging things with Steve has been his intensity. He's by far the most intense person I know. And that comes across in his emails, his phone calls, and his Facebook posts. But once you accept that this is actually who this guy is, and he's not messing around, that's really amazing. There are some incredible benefits to Steve intensity if you can handle it. Jason Jaggard says, Steve trains you how to take things seriously. He trains you how to engage in things with an intensity that most people simply don't have the courage to engage in. In an email to Steve, Brian Samuels wrote, there's an intensity, a pressure to your presence. You turn coal into diamond, and that, my friend, is the rarest of all gifts. It towers above the kindness, enthusiasm, and generosity you show to all. Recently, Stephanie Woy-Na Wong, a journalist for nearly 20 years and now a life coach, reached out to Steve. Shortly thereafter, she engaged Steve for a chocolate chip cookie agreement, the 10-hour agreement. She's invigorated by the power and verse of Steve intensity. She wrote in an email, Dear Steve, I am drawn by your humility, intense passion, authenticity, and sincerity. Sometimes I coach people with such intensity that I'm worried I will offend them. I almost feel like yelling, yet I try to stay calm. I can't help but think to myself, I wish someone would do the same for me, like freaking wake me up and shake me to the core so I can feel big and powerful. I enjoy your intensity and admire your authenticity, as well as your courage in showing your vulnerability emotions. You are genuine and down to earth and emanate love, big smiles. With love, joy, peace, hope. Stephanie Woy-Na Wong. No doubt, when Steve coaches people who are willing to stand into the fire of his intensity, they get lit up. They glow with possibility. They burn brightly, so brightly that others notice. But in terms of understanding Steve, this is secondary. Steve's intensity means that every characteristic he has, every trait he embodies, and everything mentioned in this chapter is supercharged. He is not just emotionally sensitive. He's extremely emotionally sensitive. He's not just high energy. He has more energy than most people have ever seen. He is not just amazing. He's a walking miracle. Steve Insinato. Conclusion. So what makes Steve Steve? Is it nature? Nurture? Steve's life's experiences? The trauma he endured? Or the intentional development of his abilities? Is it his personality? his high sensitivity, or his energy? Yes, all of these, all of them together, and more. There's undoubtedly a wild card, something else we just can't put our finger on. John Goody says of Steve, there are a few people walking this earth who have been blessed with something that is hard to explain. This is the dat we may never pin down, like the wave upon the sand.
Vignette, Wayne Hoffman. When I met Steve Hardison, I was performing on cruise ships as a mentalist and an illusionist. The ships held 3,000 passengers, so I met a lot of people. In my profession, it is helpful to profile people. I have come up with 7 different categories of people, 3 main categories and 4 subsets. Steve did not fall into any of those categories. It was a bit off-putting. I read people for a living, yet I couldn't figure him out. Steve was one of very few people I couldn't get a take on right away. I had 2 interactions with Steve on the ship that really stood out because they weren't normal. I performed several shows during each cruise, so I was pretty high profile. As I walked around on the ship, passengers often came up and said they loved my show. Steve walked up to me and said, "I've been looking for you." That was a little out there. "Is this good or bad?" I asked. He handed me a book and said, "I want to give you this book. This is for you, but I want you to promise me that you'll read it." Well, sure, absolutely. It was a book by Steve Chandler. No one ever gives me physical objects. They'll say a nice compliment, but not give me something. I was perplexed. Who is this guy? Is this some kind of sales pitch? Right away, I knew Steve was not like the average person. My second experience with Steve was after one of my final shows. There was a little hallway next to the stage. It went back into the kitchen area for the staff. No passengers went there unless they were lost. I was finishing packing up in this hallway and Steve walked up to me and said, "All right, I have a challenge for you. If you can tell me my middle name, I will be your biggest fan and I will book you a show in Los Angeles, guaranteed." "Oh, really?" I said. I love these moments because I have the ability to actually do things that most people would say are impossible. I said, "Well, I have something for you. I have been carrying this around all day and I didn't know why until right now." I pulled out a folded piece of paper that was in my wallet. As I handed it to Steve, I asked him what time he was born. He didn't know because he was born in Germany and it wasn't on his German birth certificate. Steve unfolded the piece of paper and saw the words Forbes 1010. As you can imagine, he freaked out. He fulfilled his commitment. He called Ron Holnick at the University of Santa Monica. They have a big fundraiser each year called the Night of Magic. They bring in a magician. Steve called him and said, "You need to hire Wayne Hoffman to do your event." Ron said, "Steve, we already have someone booked. I can't book Wayne." Steve said, "Listen, pay the other magician whatever he wants. Pay him his fee, but you have to get Wayne. You just have to." He was convincing enough that Ron actually told the other performer to only do half of his set. Ron paid me to perform the second half of the show. It was fantastic. I've been back several times. At that very first show, I met my best friend, Scott. We traveled the world together and have a really close bond, which is the biggest gift I could ever receive. I am grateful to Steve for that. I can tell you point blank, Steve Hardison is not your average Joe. I wouldn't even call him a human being because he takes the physical embodiment of a human being as nothing more than a vehicle to move energy. He does it in such a way that it affects everyone. I would compare it to one of my favorite movies, The Matrix. Steve has the ability to not live in the Matrix and to create his own reality. It's so hard to explain Steve Hardison. If somebody has ever met him, it's almost nearly impossible. I've never told Steve this, but when I tell people about Steve, I tell them I have given him a moniker, the most intense human I've ever met. I don't know how he does it, but he creates things. He creates things for himself and for other people. He attracts people. If Steve wanted to wield his powers for evil, he most certainly could. He could start a cult tomorrow, but he uses his power for good. I think his ability to do in life what I do, I think he has the ability to do in life what I do on stage. As a mentalist and illusionist, I don't come from "I'm magical, look at me," Rather, I say to my audience, I'm magical and you are too. That is how Steve lives his life, helping others find their magic.
I'm unmuted. There we go. Wow. Wow. Would everyone like to stand up for a moment? We've been like, how about just stretch and stand up? Stretch. Yay. Way to go. Oh, that felt good. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow, that was a mega super reading. Thank you. I don't know if Latrina's still here. Latrina, are you here? No. Thank you, Latrina. Thank you, Lori Becker. Lori, are you still here? Nope, she's not here either. Thank you, Lori. Well, Kai, you're still here. Kai, wow. Is there anything you would love to share with us, Kai? Can unmute.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I just want to double check. Tanya, is this the right time? Okay, cool. Thanks. I shared a little bit about about my journey with fasting. And I'm also listening to this chapter, and like a lot of the HSP stuff is just like really resonating. And for me, what fasting does is that it actually eliminates a lot of the extra stimuli, that's going on in the body. So I can really hear myself. And today, I started fasting on January 6th. Today is February 7th. I took a 3-day break while I was in Arizona with everyone. And so today is my 9th day of that second stint. And I was listening to when this fast will be over. And it really hit me. It was just very sacred that I'll be completing next Wednesday. This has definitely been a journey of self-love. And I've just uncovered so much. And I've created space for some other creative expressions to flow through me. And one of those loves that I have is poetry. So what I'll share is a poem that I wrote last week, and it was inspired by someone who is here today. Let's just see your face, Martha. So here's the poem. It's called Oh Martha. Utters of the words, Great Mother, surface from under the sinuous weavings of daughters before. I must catch my breath after declaring such soul-purifying songs with this voice in this life. Echoes of solitude and remembrance all at once clamor for recognition, for she sees all. She claims her cosmic supplies with speed, palm fronds, untouched by this world, yet blessed by chill droplets of Saturn's return, again and again, and now, as the focal point of her existence. An Omicron from the breath's door to liberation, and a long-distance phone call from the emergence of the riddles she's solving. A concoction cradled in her hands, rainbow in my face, and clouds that won't wash away so easily. The trees raise each bough in her honor, and she sweetly enters into the mossy gateways, for play dates with those wide asleep, just waiting for her to create them into our realm. To and fro, she slips back in through the internally facing window of the dreamscape. The way, lit by sprites, despite the dawn. Rooftops glimmer, and so do her eyes, as she savors the distinct taste of wild resonance, harmony at last, and a wicker sieve to carry the slippery knots of reality as they unwind and unfold to reveal not a thing at all. Thank you, Martha.
Wow. Oh, Martha. Okay. Thank you. Wow. Jim, do you have a poem for us? Or would you like to share?
Do I have a
something
poem? How do I follow that? That is beautiful. You know, Kai, that just, you know, I acknowledged Martha before we all started this evening. And, you know, what she read and spoke on the stage was just transcendent. And that creation spawned your creation, Kai. And you just gave birth to that here in front of all of us, and we'll all take that on off into the future. And who knows what will come. So that was beautiful. Thank you. First, I'd like to acknowledge the staff and Eric Lofholm and all of TUC. Really, the hard work, the dedication that you all put in is really monumental. And it really just shows the passion that you have. And, you know, even in the chapter that we read today on page 429, you know, Steve talks, or Amy talks about just as form follows function. The whole team taking care of the Facebook group, the readings here, that function, that's really the when you look at it, the result or the performance and the measurement that you really put in there. That's your passion, your purpose in life. As I look around and see all the different people from around the world, around the country, it's just amazing how we are all family and united as one. And it's all from source, the source of this book, the Book of Being. To have my wife, Lori Becker, and our two daughters sitting in the back listening until it's bedtime in Chicago. She apologizes that she had to cut. And they have my mother, the woman that chose to have a child and raised me. Mom, I love you. And really just to see this unfold, and it's just a moment in time. Now, some of you I don't know. Some of you may know who I am. And it's just great to really be part of this. And, you know, Del, great job. Kai, great job. The vignette, amazing. Thank you. It was a pleasure. This is my second time being here and participating. It's a world of service. And we're all here to serve. And I too am an HSP, if you haven't figured that out yet. But as I'm reading it as the author's writing it and seeing myself in it, I could just hear my wife, my mother, my kids say, yeah, that's you. Yep, that's you. Yeah, okay. And of course, I could hear Steve too, saying, yep, We're in this together, brother. We all are. And so are all of you. And that's the intention, is to read the back cover and read the book about you. So thank you very much. I love you all. Anytime you want to invite me back, I'm always here. Thank you. Love you.
Wow. Love you, Jim. Yes. You are HSP for sure, for sure. Del, you got something you'd love to share that was coming through for you?
First off, thank you for calling on Jim before me, because I was actually thinking the same thing. Like, how am I going to go after this amazing poetry that happened? And I want to acknowledge you, my amazing wife, for just sharing your magic and continue to share you into this. I get to get the glimpse of you most of the time, but it's great for you to be able to share it with the world. Thank you, Team TUC, for putting this together, for creating this opportunity for us to be together. My wife and I were just talking about just how grateful we are to be a part of such an amazing community. And I shared this story with someone before, at an ultimate event, of what I feel like the essence of this group is to me. And I put it 3 words: heaven on earth. This is the possibility of what heaven is like on earth. Because so many different journeys, so many different beliefs, so many different ways of all of us, of who we are, who we're expressing, and somehow we all are able to just be with each other. And it's like a synchronicity, it's a flow that happens of this divine intuition, divine love that just flows through each and every one of us. And it's definitely an ultimate experience being with you guys all the time. This chapter, I'll be honest with it. This time of actually reading this chapter, being able to hear it as well, besides myself and the other amazing readers too, I got to listen to it differently. For me, I was always so fixated on the vignettes. I want to read the vignettes. I want to hear the vignettes. I want to hear the stories. I want to hear the stories of Steve Artist. I want to hear about these miracles that are going down in the office, like all these cool, like magical things are going on. And then this chapter would come in. I'm like, oh, I don't want to deal with this chapter. I want to get back to the vignettes. But today was just a different way to be with it, because it allowed me an experience to really get into the essence of Steve, but then also the essence of me, of that HSP energy. I definitely have the HSP energy as well, but then I have different energy too. I fit into it a little bit, but then I fit in something else. And to hear the HSP being explained about Steve, but then say, even with this box, Steve is different. It explains him somewhat, but then there's still more stuff to him. And I'm like, yeah, I so resonate with that. But also, it's just great to just hear about this HSP, hearing that it's okay to feel, because feeling could be a superpower. And Steve definitely uses it as a superpower for how he is able to connect with somebody so quickly and serve them so powerfully. But so do I. So do each and every one of us as well. If we weren't HSPs, we wouldn't be here right now. We wouldn't be able to be with each other the way that we are. We wouldn't be able to feel each other the way we feel each other. We wouldn't be able to love each other the way that we love each other. We wouldn't be creating heaven on earth, or we are creating heaven on earth right now. Thank you.
Yeah, Del, heaven on earth. Man, so good to see you guys. We got to meet in Mumbai. I love you guys. I got to meet Jim in Mumbai as well, and I met a lot of you just last week. This is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful time and space to be together. Thank you for staying with us and just sharing that the simple joy and slowing down and listening. It was beautiful for me. As a HSP too, it was like, yes, 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 that's true. Slowing down, keeping it simple. You know, the simple, what did they say? Simple, uncomplicated happiness. Yeah, that's what it's about. And I found, you know, oh, I've got thin skin. You know, I'm really sensitive. I'm sensitive and porous, and that's a superpower. So now I know, I recognize that. I recognize that's true. I also have the beauty and wonder, the ability to see beauty and wonder in like the simplest things. So being able to share it with you is very, very special. And it's just so wonderful that we can read this chapter again, even though we've heard it many times before. It's different with you all reading it. So thank you for your sharing and your listening and your depth and everything that you brought to it. I loved every moment of it. Thank you. So I know this is a mega chapter. So I would love to open it up now to any of you that has something burning in your heart to share. Please raise your hand. I see Terry. Let's get to the heart of the matter so we can let everyone share. So Terry, go ahead and share.
Yes, this answered a huge question for me. I've been putting together my own thoughts on my document, and I was feeling like I needed to say I am not what I am, which I am very much an HSP. And I was thinking that I needed to calm that down, that I needed to ignore that I needed to do something else. I mean, it's like I'm on a call with a client, and within 2 seconds, I can tell you what kind of mood they're in. You know, I totally know the depth of love that I had for my late husband, and the grief that I'm having, and the excitement I had in Scottsdale. I was so enamored with Scottsdale. And I get now that that's who I am. I don't have to change that. So I thank you.
Thank you, Terry. I got to be with you and witness you too. So thank you for not turning it down and being you. Keep being you. We love you, Terry. Ralph, thank you. Would you please share with us?
Yeah, I'd like to share. I think this is a time that we're facing as humanity with a lot of things conflicting, but there's also something forging out of us. And I think a lot of people are feeling more sensitivity. I did an assessment with my ex-partner, who's a psychologist, and looked at how many traumas I've either experienced or by proxy. And when I look at my community in East London, where there's a lot of poverty, a lot of violence, I look at how many people are traumatized and how many people might be highly sensitive and haven't got a power base within themselves, or they haven't tapped into it. And this chapter took me back to when Steve talked about, when the book goes into Steve having these sessions where there was a pregnant woman to soothe his anger and the stuff he needed to process. And I feel the world needs that, each human being needs that. And I feel that on the neurodiverse spectrum, everyone has a bit of this sensitivity, even if it isn't as finely tuned. And I just find it so beautiful that Steve came into his power and has enabled other people to step into their power by showing that vulnerability, by tuning into those superpowers. And I don't think it's just people in this space. I think there's many people around the world that need this teaching, need a piece of this heaven, to quote Del. And finally, I just wanted to say that was some tough going on the reading. Big respect for all of you reading such a long chapter. And I'm very grateful because it landed differently, as has been said already, than reading it or listening to it on Audible. And love to you all from London. It's now 4:53. I need to get some more sleep after this.
Here's Ralph. Wow. Good morning. Thank you for your share. That's amazing that you're here. And yes, couldn't agree with you more. So I know we're running our time. So if you could please keep your share to what you got from this chapter, that would be awesome. MB?
Yeah, HSP, highly sensitive person, yes. MD Moby is my sister. When I saw her face in this session, and as she accepted my invitation, and she joined earlier than me to this session, the joy of seeing her in this session, the excitement and everything I was experiencing made me realize that my being of HSP. Yesterday night, I was thinking, what is my being? What is my being for others? How I'm creating others? Like how I'm impacting others. Today, my being of HSP is a joy and excitement when I see my sister in the session. I'm so happy and excited. I can feel my being of HSP.
Wow, thank you, MB. Your smile just lights up the whole room space. Thank you for that share. So joyful you're here. Thank you. Is there anyone else who has something burning that they would like to share? Do we have timekeepers? Anyone? Are we all right for time?
If there are any additional shares, this would be the time. Otherwise, we will move on into the final announcements and the after party. But I would love to invite any of you who recognize that you are HSP and there's something, an insight that was created for you tonight through tonight's reading. I'd love to hear your share. I know for me particularly, it has given me permission to lean in to understanding myself a little bit better and recognizing that when I need recovery time, it's okay. Because I would kind of expect myself to go. And I recognize that it's okay to have consciously created recovery time. And it's okay to slow down. And I know for me, I had to, in order to really create that time and be okay with it, I had to verbalize it. Like, Tanya, it's okay. You have permission to slow down. You have permission to rest. And it's so crazy to me that I literally would have to say that to myself. But that's been part of my progress. That in order to be okay with slowing down, I would just have to like vocalize giving myself permission and to just let go of everything to truly rest and recover. And so thank you for joining us. Yes, I see additional hands who you would like to share. So thank you, Andrea. Keep going.
Great. Thanks, Tanya. Mark, would you like to unmute and share? Thanks.
Yes, thank you. The realization when I'm reading a book of being and seeing that it's a book about being me, and then to hear the term HSP brought up after knowing that I've been HSP my whole life and not wanting to be, and to deny that and to have the pendulum push so far that way in the denial or the resistance to being myself, and the pendulum swinging that way, to read a book and say, okay, maybe I'm okay. And then to be on an event like this and see so many people who are identifying with the HSP, it's life-giving. It's the uniqueness or the uniqueness of it that really stands out. And it's just such a beautiful experience to be sitting here looking at all of you and feel the looking coming right back in this direction. I love being here. I love you all. It's just a fantastic experience. Thank you.
Wow. Unique Eunice. That's a great one. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you, hope to see you again. Martha, would you like to share, please?
Oh my goodness, my heart is this big right now, and my heart is palpitating. Kai, you are extraordinary. I honor your creativity, your ability to create in the manner that you create. So thank you. I have to admit, I had not read that chapter. I know. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I had not read that chapter. So this was the first reading of that chapter. Couldn't understand what HSP was about until now. And I'll say until now because since last weekend at the event, I've been going through these incredible cycles. And yesterday I was beside myself. It was like I couldn't meditate, I couldn't pray, I couldn't sit still. I was anxious. I was just in this, what is going on in me? What's happening? I was up and down. I would go and clean a drawer, and then it was very, very uncomfortable. And I finally got the nerve to call my coach and say, what is going on with me? And what I realized right now after the reading is that my nervous system was so opened, and the vibration that we were in that weekend was so immense, not only in the room, but after the whole event with all of my sisters. And I know Kai and Bobby were there and a few others. And I couldn't settle down. It was too much. I kept saying, I'm an overload. I'm oversensitive. What's wrong with me? And what I finally had to do was go on a very brisk walk for about 3 or 4 miles in order to finally get to a place today where I'm breathing again and I'm moving through the world and I'm walking easily and my skin doesn't feel sensitive. So it's the first time in my life that all of this makes sense today. Jim, what you were talking about, it all makes sense today. Oh my God. Wow. The intuitive hits that come down, I question, I wonder, is there something, am I weird? Am I strange? It's like, it all makes sense. I should have read that chapter sooner. Anyway, thank you for letting me share, but it opened up a whole new highway for me to experience myself differently. So blessed. So thank you, Amy, and thank you, Steve. I'm complete. Thank you.
Martha. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. The first time. It won't be the last time. Yeah. Wolfgang, would you like to share?
Yeah, coming on briefly, and it was interesting. I felt like somebody speaks about me all the time listening to the reading today, and I remember like 20 years ago when I started breathing, I was very haunted by that, not being able to be still, and when I took my first conscious breath, I really realized, and a term created, I totally slowed down and the magic happened. Everything speeded up. By me slowing down, everything started to speed up. And I really love it because it's much less for me to do. And I still can stay sensible and stay open. And basically finding a way of how to dealing it. And what you shared, Martha, was exactly why we were breathing on the 28th, because that was the feedback I got in Mumbai, that there was people coming in the room, and after the breathing, they realized how hyper activated they were, not being ready going home. And after the breathing, they said, now I'm ready. I'm back. And this centeredness is what I really carry with me since 20 years. And I'm so happy about it. So I kind of read the chapter 20 years ago, and I'm happy that I read it today with you. And the book reading is just amazing. Thank you so much, Team TAG, for creating it, and all the readers. And today was a masterpiece of reading. Thank you so much. And I love to listen. I'm here because I love to listen to you and just getting it in a very special way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wolfgang. Steve Hardison, welcome. Would you like to jump in? Hi.
The only way I'm going to get a hold of Tanya is get on here, and I'll wait till the end. But I got to talk to you. And Amy said, I said, it's too late to call her. No, she's over there. Go over there and just jump in. So I'll wait my turn. And I need to talk to you. And something happened different for next week. So you need to know about it. And it's happened.
Okay, you got it.
Okay, well, thanks for crashing the call.
Yeah, sorry.
We appreciate you.
My wife's at the end of the house because she knows this is going to be no easy.
Right on.
I love y'all.
We love you. Stick around. Cheryl, would you like to share? stood out for you? What were you hearing in the chapter?
Oh, so much. I hear your rule on acknowledgement, and I'm stopping myself from acknowledging every bit here, but just know it's there in my heart. And Ralph, I'm another 3 a.m. to be here, but when Spirit calls me somewhere, I obey. So here I am, actually very energized after the beautiful reading. So, Martha, not like you, it's not the first time I've read the chapter, but it was the first time that I read the chapter about me. And just so many breakthroughs there, and just to be so grateful to be in a community of people who are also HSP and living in the beautiful dichotomy of that as well. So I heard so much in the I am that, and I'm this other thing, so I don't quite fit in a mold, and that is just absolutely perfect. Yeah.
Yes, you're perfect. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you for reading it about you. Wow. Wow. These shares, this chapter, just blowing kind of my mind. Liz, would you like to share?
I would love to share. So I'm gonna kind of echo what Martha said. And coming back from the event, there was so much energy that I felt, and I was just exhausted. And I feel like our whole group, everybody was just on this overload. And no matter how much rest, how much self-care we did, there was just so much energy that we brought away from that event. And I recognize, the whole HSP coming into it, listening and really having the ability to go deeper tonight was just helpful for me to process, like, to the extent of how much that affects me and how much I don't listen to myself, and I don't give myself the opportunity to really process and take that time. And I just keep pushing and going and going and going. But it really helps me to understand I need to slow down for me, and really recognizing how taking that time, I shouldn't feel bad about that. And it helps me to do more in the long run. So it was really impactful just having the opportunity to hear it again and really process it at an even deeper level, and to even release some of that excess energy from the event and just being on that high. It's like I still feel it right here in the middle of my chest. There's still so much going on, and all of the things that I took away from that, it's right there. Like, and I know Jim Becker's like, I feel it, it's still there. It was amazing. So I love you all. That's all I gotta say.
Love you too. Wow. Yeah, you're vibing high. We can yeah, see, there it is. So do what Martha did, do the brisk walk thing. That I'm gonna try that. Renata, would you like to share?
Yes. Good morning, everybody. I am so happy I turned that job down for today and came here because I learned that I am partially HSP, and I did not know that before. But that is probably the reason why I felt instantly home a year ago when Wolfgang invited me into the Mumbai after party. And I'm so much with Martha here. I was riding this energy wave for 2 days returning home to Thailand. It took me 38 hours plus 14 hours time difference. And I was so high energy that I said, wow, no jet lag this time. What? And then I had a job on Friday. I returned Wednesday morning, and I had the first job on Friday, a beautiful group, but I lost my voice during that day. And it's just slowly coming back. So that is when I think my jet lag, my so-called jet lag, hit me. And I'm still arriving. And it's so lovely to see all you here after we met for that weekend. And I am so grateful for all of you who assisted me to be there and share my hearts. And well, the next heart sharing is in the making. That will be in Birmingham. Love you all. See you on the next reading.
Love you, Renata. It was great spending time with you, by the way, in Sedona. And thank you for your heart. I have now a heart collection. Thank you. Wow. Daniel, would you like to share?
Excuse me, I would thank you, pardon me for popping in and out as I was driving, making dinner, funny timing tonight. And this chapter, I probably read this chapter more than any other chapter so far. And thank you all for the folks who read, because it was really beautifully read tonight, especially. I've been, gosh, I haven't been to the book reading in ages, and I'm so happy to be back with you all here tonight. So this chapter, especially for me, was powerful. Like the two of the biggest things that happened for me in reading the whole book of Being About Myself was, one, having my preconceptions or about coaching blown up. Like I hadn't even realized how I had limited myself as a coach. That was huge. But the other one that's probably even bigger is realizing and seeing through reading the book about myself how much I had seen certain characteristics or quirks of myself as liabilities rather than assets. And so this chapter especially was really powerful for me to see that some of the sensitivities that I have that, you know, I relate to with you, Steve, are actually beautiful things that that serve really well and allow me to help people in ways that I hadn't realized. So it's really been like a fundamental shift of my being and the way I move through the world in my work and just in all kinds of relationships. So yeah, just that's it. Brief sharing, yet just so hugely impactful for me, this chapter. So thank you everybody. Thank you, Steve, for sharing all this. Great to be with y'all. That's enough for me to say tonight.
Wow. I keep saying wow. Love you, Daniel. Wow. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming again and being with us. Fundamental shift. Yeah, I see it. There's a lightness about you. You're glowing, you're smiling. I love it. Steve, thank you for being here.
Well, yes, thank you for allowing me. Can you hear me? So first of all, I'm so happy to see your faces. When I look at you, I like, well, there's Ken. Oh, there's my adopted son, Dale, and his gorgeous wife, Kai, and there's Fari. And it's like, oh my gosh, every single picture. So we were about getting ready to go to bed. So can I share what happened and why I'm calling, or shall I do that by myself with you, Tanya?
Whichever you'd like, my friend.
Oh, I think it would be fun if people want to hear it, but I don't want you.
Okay, let's do it.
You guys are going.
Let's do it.
So
Let's do it.
here's the short version. Do some of you know we went a trip to the Grand Canyon? There were 4 of us that went in the car. I'm going to put this up so I can see gallery, so I can see who shakes their head. So how many of you, if you know Sanyika or you saw him speak, raise your hand so I can know you know who I'm talking about. Okay, so here's the short version. We have this extraordinary experience Saturday morning. When I end up at the event at 7 o'clock, I'm told to go to the event. we're not supposed to go till 9. I wake up, I go without Amy. Amy and Teresa go later. It's a whole story, take an hour. But so I'm at the event at 7 o'clock. Nobody's even there. And I can't even find a place to park my car, anybody to park my car. So I end up being in the room with Sammy and the people, and that's a miracle thing. I won't go there. And then Sanika appears, and it's like I'm there for the dry run of him doing what he's doing. It's just me and him, and they're in the back corner. And it's this unbelievable experience. And something happened between us. And I naturally did what I'm called to do. And I won't tell you about that. It's just me and him. And I go up to the front of the room and this thing happens. And then I'm going to go to the Grand Canyon, and it doesn't include him. It's just me and Sachin. And then I say, Sachin, let's not take the Porsche. Let's take the Lexus so we can put 2 other people in. So Kasudi and Sanika up in the car with us, which wasn't even part of the plan when we set it up in November, and we planned for February 1st. So all of a sudden I'm with Sanika, Kasudi, and Sachin. And on the way back, Sanika and I he's huge. We're both pretty big. So we're sitting in the front. So we got legroom, and there's legroom in the back. But if we go in the back, we got to sit in the same place because we've got 2 huge guys and 2 regular sized guys. So he's driving Amy's car, and Sachin asked him a question about the N-word. Now I got 2 real brothers in there. This could be an interesting conversation. And I got an adopted son right over there. Yeah. And so I'm like, this is going to be great. What's he going to say? And Sanika says, let me say something first, Kasudi, before you say anything. And then you've seen him do freedom or to be or anything where he's speaking. He answers this question about the N-word in rap, just like he did up front doing freedom and to be. And I'm watching him. I'm sitting in the passenger seat. It's raining, it's helling, it's messy. You can hear it on the car. I'm an amateur dude doing it, and I'm listening to him, and I'm thinking, this guy is birthing something more powerful than anything I've ever heard in my life. And I look at him, and he's 4 minutes and 24 seconds of nonstop answering that question. And I'm just stunned. Like, how did I be so lucky to be in this car when that happened? And if what happened on Saturday morning doesn't happen, this doesn't happen. Me not listening and getting up and going early, it doesn't happen. So I say, hey, could I record that? Could you say that again? And he doesn't end that with people. This is a thing that he kept inside himself. Do I ever share this? Where do I share it? Where's the place to share it? And then we were talking today on the phone, and he literally said, I felt a safe space, so I just gave it to you. And then you asked me if you could record it. And I'm thinking, why did I say yes? So I say, okay. And you guys know I'm technical, right? So I got to figure out which way you hold that damn thing. And then I got to figure out how to put a light on it because you can't see anything in the dark. So I'm the camera dude. And here is like something amazing going on over there. And I realize he's driving into the storm, freaking this light's blinding him from the side of his head. And he speaks like it would be like, I don't mean to make anything less than it is. It'd be like Gettysburg Address or Martin Luther King. I mean, it's like power. There's this deal going on. And I'm sitting at the end of here going, I'm videoing this. This is happening right here. And he goes, it's 4 minutes and 24 seconds. And I said, I won't share this with anyone. I'll send you a copy. And when you're going to do something with this, when you do it, then let me know and I'll do something with this. And then somebody else in the car said, could I have a copy? He said, no. So he and I have the only 2 of it. Then with a series of events over the next few days, it's like you can send it, and he put it on a link. So if you watch it, you can't send it, you just watch it. And then it's been altered from that. So if you haven't seen it and you want to see it, send me, text me or message me and I'll send it to you. Okay. So this is not like I do this, I want something to do. I'll get it to you because you want to see it. So there's been this process over the last few days. I've been in communication with him. Other people have helped. It's crazy. The next morning after I have this, I come home and I watch it again and I'm blown away with it. I mean, I'm not talking, I'm blown away with it. My first client in the morning, because I told him I'll just show it on the glass. I won't send it around. The first client I show it to, she is a mess for all 4 minutes and 24 seconds. I said, what did that do for you? What was that like for you? And she told me, I said, no, don't tell me. You call Sanika, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And she sent a message. Then he sent it to me. The next day, I did the same thing with another client. Same response. So he and I have been talking at night. I've been on the phone with him several times today. And it began that he was going to do something on the 29th of February. Committed, not to me, I'm just helping. I'm just there with him, but I'm helping him to commit. It's not like I'm committing. He's got the space. I say, well, let's move it. Let's do this thing. He said, okay, I'll do it by the 29th. Then he has a conversation with Kasudi. And how I know Kasudi shifted because of this conversation is because when we were in the car, there's a little like disruption about, hey, is this okay what he's asking us to do? Meaning the brethren. Is this okay what this guy just asked us to do? And with Kasudi, it was like, hey, I'm not sure that's cool because I want to do it like this. And then I asked Kasudi one question about it, and he saw something. So Kasudi was at some place that wasn't enrolled totally in the place. Now he's wanted to move it up 12 days. That's how much Kasudi shifted. So then it all of a sudden got to be the 17th. Then I'm on my walk and I'm working with this beautiful man, Sanika, just talking to him. And I say, dude, this is something really powerful trying to happen. And I say, now get ready, because if you step up like this, there's going to be backlash for you and for me. Because this is not going to go over easy for some people. So again, a series of conversations, and I'm lucky that ones of them are like recording. He's got it. I got, because this will be historical. What he's going to do is unbelievable, in my opinion. So yesterday, when I showed this to Stacy Katz, and she saw the blow by blow of what happened, and I showed it to her, and I had her call him, because I said, don't tell me that, tell him that, have him see what impact it has. So we're walking out of my office, and she said, you know, I know you've told me a lot of stuff that's happening. Now they're going to be in a studio, and you got this all set up, and it's going to happen on Saturday. This was the 29th, 17th. Now, Saturday, that's like a couple days from now. And we're walking out, and she said, wow, why wouldn't you be there? And I said, well, I haven't been invited. She says, why don't you invite yourself? I said, no, that's his to do. And so she goes, this is yesterday. She leaves. Wake up today. We have the day. I have clients. Get the phone ring about 2 hours ago. It's Sanika. He says, man, I don't know how to say this to you. You know, I want you to be part of my crew. And I said, well, you got to tell me what that is. I don't know what that means. I mean, I know what he's saying, but he said, you know, I got everything set up and I got people helping me, and I don't need you to be that. I don't need you to do music or do this or help with that. That's the crew he's talking about this time, not the crew. And he says, I just want you to be there with me. And I said, let me tell you what I got. I got a guy I promised I'd hear speak probably 6 months ago. I got to move that. I got a book reading that I'm going to have to get back for. So I'm going to have to go early, come back late. He says, it's 6 hours. This thing's going to take 6 hours. He's got the best in LA. We got a place we're going. And so he says, I'd like you to be with me. I just want you to be with me. You don't have to just be with me. I said, I'm your wingman. I'm your wingman. I'm your wingman. And during these last couple of days, we've created his reinvention of his document. The title for his document is The Essence of This King. The Essence of This King. With this capitalized. Does anybody know what this, when it's capitalized, means? Okay, Jim, you do, so other people can go look it up. Anytime you got that or this or he in, it's God. I am the essence of God King, godly King. Because in his N word, he says, don't be doing that. If you're going to call anybody, call him King, because that's who we are. So if you want to get into some background, get a copy of this N word, and you'll get one of the originals. And now it's not even, you can't share it. You can share it. He's like, wow, let's go. So the can't share, put to that. So he's telling me all about what's going on. And he says, I want you to be there. Now I got a schedule that's killer. So Amy and I I got the tickets to go where I'm going to stay at a hotel. We have a studio, and Saturday at 3:00 for 6 hours, the best of the best is going to video him doing this thing called the N-word. So watch what happens, watch what opens up, because you asked me to do the last book reading. I told you had 30 minutes. Now it's shifting this around. I'm going to be in LA in a hotel with a bunch of time in the morning and a Super Bowl later in the day. And I know how to have fun with that time, that space, and nobody there. This is raucous. So I wanted to let you know, this is what I'm going to tell you, Tanya. I can be more than 30 minutes. I have someone that's going to meet me at the hotel that I'm taking as a partner to assist him. He doesn't know that, so don't say it. Hope he doesn't watch this. So he's going to be stunned, who I go with me. And this she is going to come to my hotel room. Wow. In the morning. And she will be on the call with me as we make the call. And so I'll be there a little longer. And I wanted you to know that's going on. And I would like all of you, I had no plan to do this. Amy just said, hey, don't try to call it home. She's going to be on thing. Just get over there. So I'm not meaning to disrupt it. So just know that at 3:00 Pacific Standard Time in Burbank, California, in a top end recording studio with great artist, Arsenica, that did Be You and Freedom, will do the N-word. And mark my words, that will reverberate around the planet. It won't be local. That will be crazy good. And we could really support him, because I've never seen someone so courageous in my life. And I've been with some courageous people. So, and isn't it interesting that there were 2 seats left that would allow me to get there or come back? And everything's fallen in place. I call the gal that says, that's going to go with me. She says, I'll pick you up at the airport. I'll have this. I'll have this. She's like an event planner for me. And I just invited, just tell them how you feel. So this is how magic works. This is the world I live in. Not, I'm cool. It's like, believe it can happen. Just move with it. So thanks for letting me share that. And I'm asking you that at 3:00 Pacific Standard Time, wherever you're at, be in a place to send vibrational love to Sanika as he creates what's called the N-word. And he's had it in him a long time, but it's like, who do I get to tell that to? How's this going to go down? And when I talked to him today on the phone, he's explaining to me why he thought it happened, how it happened. And I said, okay, you have a point of view. I have a point of view. Kasudi would have one, and so would Sachin. I said, can I tell you mine? This is 2 or 3 hours ago. And he said, yes. And I said, do you know that Saturday morning, he didn't know this thing, that I got woken up and I went by myself. I got told when to put on Jacob's clothing. Nobody knew I was coming out in Jacob's clothing. Nobody. Amy didn't know that. She thinks I'm going to, and someday I'll tell you the whole background of that. Wakes me up, tells me what to take, what to put in the bag. And so I'm there, and then he speaks, and I'm there with him. And there's a connection and a connection and a connection. I said, it created safety, safety, and safety. We go to the Grand Canyon. You see who I am. You see where I'm at. I said, what happened is you trusted me. You birthed that in front of people. He's told people singularly, but it's like the selected group. And he was stunned when he told me, yes, I could video it. And him making that move, it's been that move, step, 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 till I will be with him. I land 1 o'clock. I'll be picked up. I'll go over with his group, and we will shoot this. And I ask that at 1 o'clock, at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, wherever you're at, be thinking of Sanika and his 8 or whatever people, and the wingman. And when I talk about wingman, I'm there. Whatever he needs, I'm there for him. Thanks for letting me. So I wanted to let you know, Tanya, I'll have more than a half hour on that Sunday, and it will probably be the absolute best reading that's ever happened, no matter what we talk about, because I'll be coming off of that thing the day before. In fact, I say we may blow up whatever you got and just talk about what happened in that room about him. I don't need airtime. It's going to be amazing. And for those of you who have seen it, raise your hand. Your real hand so I can see it. Dale, you're going to want to see this, buddy, quick. Okay, so any of you raised your hand, you got Messenger, right? Leave them a message now or tonight about how you felt about it. Don't say anything I said. What did you feel about when you watched that? Give him inspiration or tell him what it is or what you learned. So if you're willing to do that, and this isn't groupthink, tell me you'll do it and do it sometime so that he has it before we do the thing on Saturday. Inspire him of whatever he inspired you to do. And those of you who ask me for it, when you get it, and I'm not asking you to see something that's not there. If you think it's shit, tell him, hey, I think that's shit. This isn't like, let's set something, but listen to the power of it and share it with him. Other than that, I don't have anything to say. I love you guys. And Jim, thank you for being here. Thanks for reading. All of you that read, Tanya, thanks for what you've done. Every single one of you. There, I hug you and love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's my whatever it was. And I'll have my book with me. And I promise you, before I get there, I'll read it, that chapter about myself. What a wonderful world we live in. I love you, Del. I love you. I love you all.
Love you, Steve.
So much fun being with you the other day, Damien. What a real conversation. Ken, it was seeing you, but so good seeing you sitting behind me. Cheryl, thanks for all you're doing. Tanya, every one of you. Carrie, when I listen to you carry on doing this, you literally sound like a professional that would do this. This is what you do every day of your life. You are so natural and free-flowing. Your voice is so good. It's an amazing thing that you do. It's amazing. Angela, I love you. Tell Carlo I said hello. And Terry, thank you for coming to the event. It was so good to see you there. I love seeing you. Thank you all. And if I didn't say your name, say it to yourself and know I love you.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
And I will send that video tonight to anyone who message. Do it on Messenger, make it easier for me. So I just go to one place and I'll send it to you and you'll have it. And if you want to share it, you can share it, but don't share it if you don't see it. And if you watch it, tell him how you feel about it, or don't watch it.
We will.
I'm done.
Wow. So we will message Steve if we haven't seen the video, and if you feel moved, let Sanyika know how it impacted you. Yes, yes. And
Well, imagine if he gets 10 or 12 of those tonight while he's thinking about all this stuff.
wow.
And I told him, go back and read the forward of the book. She's a good friend of mine. She's going to be an ally with us. And that good friend of mine, the last two programs that she was on were by this other lady. It starts with an O. And it was Iyanla getting life. This is in the book. It was Iyanla getting life squared out, because in my office, Iyanla said, Oprah betrayed me. I said, you got that wrong, sister. It's the other way around. And then she went and cleaned it up with Oprah. That's when Oprah invited Iyanla to be on the second to last program. They cleaned it up. And then it was so good, Oprah had her be on the very last show. And then that was so good, she got her own program that's ran for 12 years. I said, read that about her. She's one of our partners, Sanyika. And I said, we're that far from the lady everybody tries to get to. I came from Clearfield, Utah, grew up below the tracks. No one wanted their kids to play with me. I'm playing now. It's never too late to have a wonderful childhood. I think I'm done.
Steve, your face is lit up, so lit up. I just I have to say it. Your smile just lit up the whole wide world. Your enthusiasm. I can just see fire. What do we call him?
Sanika, the fire.
Yes, that fire starter. So I can just see him standing there with you next to him. Oh my God. What powerhouses.
My arms are extended wide, flying with him, flying with each of you. Like, you are, what an honor to have you as his wingman. What an honor. Woo!
And I
I'm fired up.
capitalize wingman when I tell him it.
Yes.
Jim.
Capital.
Capitalize wingman. This, that, wingman.
This, that, wingman. And Furaha, you mentioned Furaha.
Yes.
The joy.
Yeah, it was weird because see, I'm going to the canyon with Sanika, Kasudi, Sachin, and Steve. That's weird. So I thought I'd get me a name from Africa that is the word for happiness. So that's what I did on the trip. I didn't go by Steve.
Nice.
And my
Thank
middle
you.
initial is an F, and it starts with an F, so it works. Thanks. I'm done. I think.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Ken, would you like to?
Yeah, I'll
share?
share this. I'll share real quick here. I just got one thing to say. 14 years later, a new TBL, LIT, NFL is being created here with Sanyika. We are creating the next worldwide phenomenon, actually the third worldwide phenomenon. TBL, LIT, NFL was first. This became second. Sanyika and you being there creating that. So I'm looking so forward to being part of this new creation all over the world. So thank you, Steve. You showed up on this call for a reason. God spoke. God listened. God be with us all.
Hey, Ken,
Thank
you
so,
gave me
so
an
much.
idea. Can I share it with you?
Sure can.
Who has the video that knows technology and we watch it as a group, 4 minutes and 24 seconds. Throw it up on here. Let's see it together.
Yep.
Damn. I was over at Sachin's thing and he asked me to speak at his group and he said, you got 10 minutes left. I said, who knows how to get something off of here and put it on there? And we showed it to 15 people.
Steve,
And
I
I'm
already
asking
sent
your
you.
permission.
I
If
already
that works, we can see it as a group.
Yeah. I already sent you a message for that video. So you check your phone. I want
Yes,
it. I
I'm
want
saying
it
something
tonight.
different than that. Tanya, with your permission, could somebody set it up so people can see that and we can see it together?
If you, can you share it with me right now and I can share it?
Jim can. Jim's got the whole technology. He's got his hands up. I promise you it'll
Jim?
be worth your 4.2 minutes.
Jim, can you send it to me in Messenger right now?
Yeah, I could even do that. I know how to do that.
Yeah. Just
Hold
send it
on,
to me
here
in
we go.
Messenger. Right?
Wow, this is amazing. I love this.
Tanya, I just sent it to you.
Okay. Dude.
Permission to send it out to all of us on this link. Is that okay, Steve?
Yes, absolutely. It's okay now to share it any way we want.
Let's
Even if
go.
This can go.
All right. Here
Steve,
we
you're
go.
the
you have it,
example of
Tanya?
the dots always
Yep,
connect.
I have it. I have it.
Okay.
Yes, this is us. Mind the photo quality. The guy doesn't know what he's doing that's holding the camera.
Let me know if you can hear the sound.
Click on.
Wait.
When you hit share, make sure you click the little box to the right. Share it again and click the box on the right. As soon as you hit share, there's two check boxes. Yeah, maximize that, but then you have to reshare it. Hit share, and then there's two check boxes underneath the screen. Just click on that, and then that'll take care of that.
Thank you so much, all of you, for being willing to do this.
Thank you, Steve, for the creation.
Sorry, hold on. It's not.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Jim.
Sorry.
Tanya, if you want me to do it, I can do it over here too.
My screen went so big now I can't
You
see
can do it where you're
anything
from,
else.
Jim.
I can.
Okay, let me give you capabilities.
I just need share. That's all.
And
Thank
if you have anybody in your home or near you, invite them to come listen. You could say, I saw this before it became that on the weekend, and we did it on the book reading. So if you got somebody just hanging around, bring them over and let them see it.
You got it, Jim?
I got it.
Okay, perfect.
Just give me 1 sec. Can I jump in on on this Zoom link and just let me in on this? I've got it on my phone. There we go. There we go. There we go. Two more seconds, 30 seconds. Sanika, there you are. And there it is. All right, and I'm going to pause that. I'm going to go to my Zoom. Give me 1 sec, and here we go. And you gave me rights to share. Done deal. Share sound. And here we go.
Okay.
My brothers, before I get into any discussion, I'm taking a second to let you know.
Can you hear it or no?
It's jumping around.
Okay. Give it a second.
Send a little energy to this thing happen.
All right, we got enough energy now.
My brothers.
For some reason, it's not going through. When I share, I'm not able to hit the second audio on the Zoom. I'm unable to hear the Zoom on here. I can hear it on mine. Let me try it right here. There you go. All right, give me one. It's working on here, no problem.
We could hear it, Jim. We can
You
try
can?
it. Let's try it one more time. If not, I have it, so I can try it. But we were hearing it, so let's try one more time.
No, I'm
You can
okay.
hear it. That's all you need. He just sits there. If you can hear it, it's what we need.
First original peoples, capable of anything in your reflection, the essence of a king. That's why in this moment I am still conflicted,
Can you
self-restricted.
get it clearer, Tanya, than that from where you're at?
Easy.
Yes, let me try.
I promise you it'll be worth the hassle. Guarantee you. If you're disappointed, bill me $1,000.
My brothers, before I get into any discussion, I'm taking a second to let you know that I love you. You are Earth's original peoples, capable of anything in your reflection, the essence of a king. That's why in this moment I am still conflicted, self-restricted from using a single word because of the pain it's inflicted. This word is a virus bubbling up inside us, a word that we reverse, but in reverse is where it guides us, and I guess that's what surprises me. That's why I'm triggered when a brother who loves his brother is calling his brother a nigga. You called your brother a nigga? You called your brother a nigga? Did you call your mother a nigga? Nah, I didn't figure. And the fact that you won't use it, the one that gave you birth, is what makes the explanation that it's harmless even worse. If it's such a loving term Black people have accepted, why won't you use the term with the woman you respected? I mean, I've been a lot of places. There may be something I'm forgetting, but I've never seen it used at a wedding. Eyes locked, hold the hands with your significant other. Would you say the N-word to inspire your baby's mother? Tell your daughter you love her. Tell your grandmother and grandfather that this is the freedom of yours they fought for. It's fine, because we say it all the time. They call us niggas while picking cotton. About your cotton picking mine, and best believe I used to use it. Said it with ease. Second thought, dog, I abused it. I had a disease and told brothers that we should lose it. Brothers disagreed. They said it's a term of endearment. They be like, nigga, please. So I'm calling my brothers niggas, not calling my niggas brothers. Hold up. Why's the only time we niggas with each other? Brother to brother, are you afraid? Others will judge you if when you see me instead of nigga, you just said I love you. And it's a complicated history from movies, music to comedy. Black entertainers said the word with love and affection. But it's become a mystery through movies, music, and comedy. Other races' abuse turn Black wounds into an infection, and we fight for the right to say it. We're not fighting for a future that determines if it's really right to say it. And who am I to say enough? Who am I to bring it up? Who's this nigga asking those niggas to give it up? I am. One of your brothers is the reason I'm invited. I am. A man that speaks the truth even if you don't like it. I am. Aware that transformation happens in phases. The first step is the awareness there's no benefit to say it. Screw acceptance. We go from it's okay to it's outrageous. Because they call brothers niggas before they lock them up in cages. They call Black fathers niggas so they can't make better wages. So I'm only using words that bridge a brother to his greatness. My camera was broken, but now I get the picture. There's a much bigger audience using the word nigga. So when I say brothers, it's brothers of all persuasions. My brothers Black and Latino, Caucasian and Asian in every city and state, every country and continent. The N-word is a problem all over the freaking place. And words like nigga live in all genders, races, religions. A word you may feel is freedom, for someone else is a prison. So what I'm trying to teach you is a lesson I was given. The words that you choose, words you abuse. The words that you use create the world that you live in. Nigga means ignorant. Doesn't make us better men. Can't put it at the end of your name to go practice medicine. It doesn't make you richer, healthier, or blacker. It does not improve the chances of making Black lives matter. And if Black lives matter, my niggas, here's what I'm asking. Why would I call you nigga when your righteous name is Black man? Originals, brothers, sophisticated or gutter. I am only using words that will show my brothers I love you. And the love runs so deep, I am willing to take the stand for the brothers that will sit and try to make me the villain. I'm the tattoo remover here to get it off your chest. It'll sting a little bit. Brothers, this is my request. I am asking you to rethink your words. I'm not calling you out. I am calling you for words. Stop using the word nigga. And what to call your brothers other than the N-word is only one thing. That man's really your brother. Only thing that you should call him is a king.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let that vibrate through the world. Come on now. Let's get some hearts across the board.
Now, if you
Wow.
feel so moved, communicate with him what you experienced and don't take a long time doing it. Imagine the courage that he'll have hearing from this many people.
Yes. Let's lift our brother up and spreading that through the world. Woo! Thank you, Steve. Thank you for the way you powerfully share and the way you powerfully create and the way you listen and you follow the nudges. as a possibility. If you didn't listen and you didn't arrive when you did at the event, then that connection wouldn't have happened. But you listened, you followed, and the creation is manifesting itself. And so thank you for being that beautiful example right here, right now. Mm.
Thank you. Thank you for participating. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for loving him. And thank you for sending him good energy, 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on Saturday. I love him. My brother. I'm his wingman.
Damien, I see your hand. Do you have something you'd like to share?
I'll say it real quick. You know, I went to the Ultimate Experience. I went to Sachin's intensive. Had a conversation with Steve. And the reason I'm laughing is, and Jim, your house, you know, this is how loud this is for me. Even going all through that, you know, I think, should I do this? What do I need to do? This experience, just what we just did, just show up. I'm talking about myself. Maybe you relate. You never know how the dots show up. Just show up and you'll be part of the dots. And that this is, I mean, us knowing the whole dots connecting, Steve showing up early to the event and all the dots just showing up. You never know. Just show up. You gotta figure out nothing. You don't have to figure out nothing. That's how loud this is to me right now. What do I need to know now? Show up. You don't know who you can help. So I know it's the end of the meeting, so I'm short and sweet. So I'm telling myself, just show up, and I don't need to know how to be of service. Just show up. Thank you, Steve, and Jim and everybody. Thank you, everybody. Just show up and you'll, hey, go do this, whatever it is. So yeah, this is like any insecurity, any doubt, just got all wiped out. It just got all wiped out. So that's all. That's it. Thank you.
I don't want this to end. So I'm stalling. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So I'm going to pass it now to Fari to take us home. Thank you, Fari.
Who could talk after all this? I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. I just got my hubby out of bed and he came here, and because he's a black man, and I showed him before when you sent it to us about Seneca, Steve, and he was just saying because he's a black guy, he says the entire black community is the one that is going to teach the white folks how to talk about the black. And I just got him to come here, and he started crying, and he took off, and he couldn't take it anymore. Yes. And he goes, "Who is this Steve Hardison?" And I said, "To me, he's a Mahatma Gandhi. I don't change that." And look at all these 9,000 people on a Facebook, of our Facebook, 9,500. It's only a few of us here, but just as few of us can change so much. I am so blessed that this is my second season of having the privilege of working behind the scene in the book reading, and how much I have grown, how much I have learned, how much I have become better just by listening, by just being here. And my God, Steve, what have you done for us? How have you, without us paying you, have coaching us and making us to be a better, I'm talking about me being a better person, even about HSP that I learned about me 3 years ago. When I just lost my mother a few months ago, and she was living with my sister, and I went to visit her, but the lights were all up. So I had to go and sit at my sister's house, 8 o'clock at night, with a visor on and a black glasses, and because I couldn't stand it. I couldn't deal with it. And she thought I'm being a drama queen, as she called me. until I said to her, they said, what are the diagnoses? What is it that I'm being called on? Because, you always look for things to make you feel like you're the sick in the family. But then I found this family and I thought, one of your own people might refuse you, but the world out there wants to accept you. And this world of the ultimate coach, especially with the event that we were on, I haven't left yet. I'm still in Arizona. I'm still there and I'm still feeling it to every bone in my body. And I want to be the help, the effect. Like I had the pleasure of talking with, her name is actually Kai. We call him Kai, but it's Kai. And she's not, why don't you tell him, girl, your name is Kai, you know? You did? Oh, okay. And I was talking to Kai and I just said, I learned that from Steve that says, just be the service, Barry, just be the service. And what a privilege to have learned that from Steve, to just be it and without expecting anything and pour my heart out on everybody as a service. And look at it, what is going on tonight, what you're creating. And it is magnificent. Magnificent is too poor of a word to use it for this incredible space. And from the bottom of my heart, Steve, I am so grateful to you. Did you like to say something, my love, Steve?
Yes, I would.
Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I remember being in a hospital room and a lady that was dying of cancer and her sisters were all there. And they were all talking about going shopping. And I'm watching this lady die and they couldn't deal with death. And I went over to the lady and I said, tell me what you're feeling. What's this like for you? Now, I'm inviting you to look at, we just had an extraordinary thing that just happened. I'd like you to focus on that. And I would like to say, some of you have had a really great experience. So if it's just like kind of average, I guess we're being taped, are we? Still taped? There's somebody in here that's like, I just want to share what I got, get it on recording. Which one of you have something, say, here's what I experienced. Share that. So one of you is like, got something, is like, I want to say something about what just I saw. Share it with us. Who is it?
Ralph, go ahead, sweetheart.
Yeah, my son's mum is Jamaican. Like Kasudi, I read Malcolm X when I was 12 years old, and that was in a British Forces school in Germany. I bought Dead Prez in a PX postal exchange. I don't know who knows the Dead Prez group. And I think it's so important, it's been said already, that we give each group of people in this world, we're all one as humans, but self-determination to define their own experience and destiny. And Steve, I just want to congratulate you on making that possible as a wingman, because that's exactly the role we should play as wingmen, where we're asked to support rather than imposing ourselves on other people's experience. And my son has the struggles from the age of 6 when he was in primary school. He was throwing stones at a can and the police came through the park. I'd gone to the shop to buy him a drink. I come out, the police are all around him. The whole community's around the police. And I said, what's going on? And they said, well, we were walking through the park and your son was throwing stones at us. And I said, I don't believe that for a minute. I might have my issues with the police. They've arrested me. They treated me a certain way, especially as a youth worker, stop and search all the time. But I didn't raise my son to have animosity towards anyone. I raised him to have love. And then the policewoman said, well, actually, he was throwing stones and one rolled by my foot. And I think the woman was expecting a parent that couldn't stand up for their child to come out of the shop or appear and that's not what she got. And then the community banded around us, and my son was in tears because he had respect for the police. He'd never been in trouble. So the struggle with self starts a lot earlier when people face discrimination. And it's a great tragedy. And this is why I asked the question of, we were asked to ask, I shouldn't say that, but Steve, your speech about unity in the world when you won the speaking competition, it's so necessary that this work is done, and it's so necessary that we respect people's self-determination and their struggle, so necessary that we recognize privilege, that we recognize the things that we use and utilize each day are built off the blood, sweat, and tears of people, often even children in other parts of the world. For example, I've been to Gaza Strip, and I'm not political. It's not about who's right or wrong, but there's children right there, right now, that need our voice and need San Yinka's voice. And that's what this work takes, is to be conscious and constantly pushing and constantly utilizing all avenues that every human being can stand in equity, love, peace, and justice. And that, you know, my son's experience wasn't pleasant, but it was only a scratch on what can be experienced by people because of prejudice. So obviously I didn't plan to say that, but it's a lot of work. I've got Bob Marley here. Every man has the right to define his own destiny. And that should be the case, but sadly, power structures don't allow that. And I learned from Steve not to judge an individual, but I do use my discernment to examine when people come together with power, how do they use it? And do they use power over people, or do they use the power to have love and peace and blessings for everyone in the world? And it's not the case yet, so we all have a grave responsibility on our shoulders. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you so much. Wolfgang, would you like to share?
Yes, please. I was thinking of that already in Scottsdale, and now it happens. That's really, really amazing. We are creating Victoria Falls this year, and I'm in a powerful conversation with one of the most powerful ladies in TOC, Angela. And I just felt instantly, I want to have these words in the heart of Africa spoken. Let's just speak it out. Oh.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Jim, did you want to share? Ralph, you still have your hand up. Did you have anything to share, Ralph, before I go to Jim? Oh, no. Okay. Jim, go on.
Ari, thank you so much.
Of course.
Sarika and I spoke on Sunday for an hour. We're speaking tomorrow at 6:30. And not only did I watch the video, then he recited it to me verbatim on a Zoom. And I had a monologue for about 5 to 10 minutes after. And I'm a retired Chicago fireman, born and raised Chicago. And I have friends of all religions, all colors, and you all know me, I'm an open book. But the contemptuous term of the N-word, I even, without judgment, without contempt, I spoke the word with Sanika. This bridges something larger than a word. There's a separation between fear and what is good. And there are forces in this world that are keeping us in prison, causing separation, causing fear, and it's everywhere. It's our job to silence it. It's our job not to go to that well and drink from. There is a void. Taking the voices of so many people and either taking that word and making it obsolete, because it's not, you know, Sanika and I talked, if describing a person from South Africa, it would be Black people. This derogatory word means so much other than that, and that is not that. A good friend of mine, Terrence Howard, and I sat together one night, and I just said, Terry, I call him, Terry, what was it the director said to you when you were making that movie Crash? Because when my wife and I watched that movie and you got pulled over by the police, it was alarming. And he told me in detail what that was and how he got in the character. We are people of 7 billion particles. We are the same. It doesn't matter skin color, religion, what your occupation is, or what you think or do. You are me and I am you. This is one catalyst with the wingman that will explode. And be careful if you're close when that explosion goes off, because there's a chain reaction coming. And this will take us to the promised land. And Sanika, the fine specimen that he is, will shake the ground in which that he walks on with this message. And we will unite with him, for him, alongside him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, Saturday, 3 o'clock Pacific time is the time that we can send all of our love and prayers and support on his way. And if we're not there physically, we can be there in spirit.
It looks like Kai has got her hand up.
Yes, I will just go right to, hey, beautiful. Did you want to talk, my love?
I love you.
I love you. This is not a speech, it's just a vulnerable share. And I apologize for my voice, but it's what I got. When I listened to Sanika, it was the first time that I took a moment to actually feel what that means to me. And that's significant for a lot of reasons, but especially because it's Black History Month. And there's a big joke going around, and that joke is that, oh, all of you half-bloods out there, you can only celebrate Black History Month until February 14th. It's funny, and also taking the time to just be with that today, I also realized that it hurt. And feeling that for the first time and what that word means to me, it gave me access to a place that I now get to love deeper. And also it gives me Sanika's words have helped to guide me to transmute that to the power that it is. So I'm really, I'm really grateful for his words and for the opportunity to hold myself in that place, to just be able to feel that. Thank you.
How beautiful, sweetheart. How beautiful. I love you.
Thank
That's
you.
wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Words are not strong enough to show how much love we can have for you, for the whole Black community. I mean, yes, sir. Tom, did you want to share, my love?
Yep, I'll go quickly, but Martha, you and I talked when we were in the pre-meeting, and I just want to, can I share a photo, a picture, Tanya? Yeah, so we'll just take a second here. So me and my son climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in 20 during COVID, and those two gentlemen